Good evening. Thank you for joining me for another live stream with your host, JMKAZE Podcast. And we got a good show for you tonight, as promised, at 10:30. We're about 2 minutes late. We will be starting here in about 5 minutes officially. Everything is ready to go. Everything is pretty much set up. And we're going to have the person that you've been waiting for, Jmix, and he'll be online. We're almost there. All right. We got one watching so far. Just one. Make sure to hit that like button. Let's get some likes on this video. Got a lot of interesting topics to talk about tonight. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a good show. Can y'all hear me out there? Anybody? Can anybody hear me out there? Let me know if we're good. Let me know if we're good. Yeah, you hear me out there? All right. So you're in. All right, good deal. JMix is on the live chat right now. You know, I never understood, and as many times as I've seen, as many live chats as I've seen, how hard it is to multitask, to read questions and talk and respond to them, typing back rebuttals. Man, it's pretty hard. So, just a apology here at the forefront. If I don't type back, it doesn't mean that I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. I mean, I'm not ignoring your questions. I'm just. It's kind of hard to multitask, so to speak, without having to keep your train of thought. So, but glad everybody can make it back. We had a 1 hour delay, but for very, very good purposes, and I'll let Jmix tell you exactly what that possibly could have been. But it's all for the goodness of the live stream tonight. So you will be in for a treat tonight. There'll be several topics. 10:30 might be a little late for some people, but it's a Saturday night. If you're not out doing what you're doing, then you're probably tuned into the station. So we got a lot of good things to talk about tonight, Tupac related. Tory, I haven't seen you in a long time, man. Where you been hiding? And everybody, welcome tonight. That's here in the chat room so far. Got JA in here. Got TI in here. I don't know if that's the real TI, but he's in here tonight. So sound off if you have any questions tonight about anything, and we got the call in right now. JMix, can you hear me?
I can.
All right. So everybody, if you can hear JMix, please let us know. I mean, I can hear you loud and clear, man. It's good to have you on the show tonight. Everybody's been anticipating you being here, so thank you for being here tonight. If you want to explain to the people what the delay could have been, if it's a good thing or whatever, certainly speak away. And then at that point, we'll start going down the list of topics that we're going to talk about tonight. I apologize about that.
Yeah, that's what's up. I just want to say what's up to everybody watching. I know it's a late live stream. It's completely my fault. I kind of had to push this for good reason, like JMKAZE was saying there. I appreciate you having me on the show. I've just been, I'd be a liar if I didn't if I was to say that my phone hasn't been blowing up for the last 3 days. And I've been on that grindstone, man. I've been answering calls left and right, and I've been getting the audio that people want. I've been talking to the man.
Yes, and I think that's what everybody has been waiting for. I mean, as far as everything that's going on right now, you have these different channels that are coming out saying that, basically you're pulling off a fraud show to the Tupac community, which I find very erroneous because I know that's not what's happening. But if you want to explain to the people out there that this is really happening and that you're not pulling off this miracle editing job, or you're not controlling Suge Knight's voice box or anything like that.
Yeah, I'd love to know how that would be possible. I would love to know how I could morph Suge Knight's voice into saying my name. I did a live stream that it made a couple hundred people saw, where I played some of the conversation. And I put out a video just the other day of him pretty much co-signing exactly what platform he was going to be on. I took that down because, like I said, it's a work in progress. But here's the thing: is the conversations that we're having, he's talking very freely. But Suge Knight, even though he took his deal, he's not in prison yet. He's still in L.A. County Jail. He's in L.A. County Jail with the same people that put him in the L.A. County Jail. So I think he's going to have a lot more freedom and flexibility, and I'll have a lot more leeway in exactly what I can put out as soon as he's not in the LA County jail. But I got put on a call with him today, and we were talking about that Whack 100 clip, and there's a lot to say about that. You got Whack 100 on Instagram playing that clip talking about recording Suge Knight illegally when he's recording Suge Knight illegally, and then And then you got other guys taking that Instagram recording, putting it on a live stream like it's their own, and then telling me that mine are fake. I guess the only response I have to any other people that are saying that stuff is you've had 3 days now. Where is you getting Suge Knight on the phone? I think I've given enough proof of life, and for building my channel for almost 10 years now, I'm not going to ruin my credibility on a sound bite for some views. And here's the thing. If anybody can find that audio of Suge Knight talking that I have, if you can find it anywhere on the internet, then you've got me against the corner, but you can't because it's my audio that I recorded. That audio of Suge Knight doesn't exist. How many jailhouse interviews are there of Suge Knight in the last 3 years? You got the Death Row Chronicles, you got the Pop Show. Where else?
Nowhere. I mean, every one that you just mentioned were the ones that were publicized, and everybody knows about those. And there hasn't been any other ones. I mean, it's in my opinion, and I'm gonna piggyback off of what you just said, and maybe you can add something to this. That interview that they had brought out, the pre-recorded interview with Suge Knight, whatever Whack was giving away, was that about the TMZ video that was released at
See,
times?
it's very, very unclear because I can't say for 100% that it was. I like to think that it was because it's so completely out of context. When he's talking about millions of views, it's so out of touch with what actually was put out. On the other hand, I'm not sitting here saying that Whack 100 can't get Suge Knight on the phone. But I guarantee you this, and I've got a segment that's coming out later tonight on my channel with Suge Knight's business partner, where he responds directly to Whack 100 because he was calling them out. And he's saying, look, this is show your paperwork because I'm working with Suge. I put Jesse on the phone with him. I mean, I'm co-signed by his manager. I've live streamed a good portion of the first conversation I had with him. And I put up proof of life. I put him saying my name up. I put a video up where he said, I'm not doing anything except for this channel. I mean, that's everywhere. I don't know what else I need to do to disprove a negative.
Right. In the other channel, whatever, they were boasting about being able to get that Suge Knight interview that would be right after you have. And as you said, it's basically been silent. We haven't received any interview from that other channel. But beyond that, I mean, there's a couple of questions that have chimed in here in the live chat, and maybe you can let us know. And if at this point you can't, that's all right. During the conversation, at any point with Suge Knight, did he mention anything, or did you ask anything about Tupac as far as? And it could be in any regards. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, I did actually. He gave it to me unprompted. He told me the whole story about Tupac sitting in jail with no money on his books, and he told me the process that he did to get him out of jail. And he told me that and I guess this is a little tidbit from it that I can tell. He said that everybody was everybody was speaking on Tupac while Tupac was locked up. Free Tupac. He had a lot of friends out there in the public, but he had no money on his books. Nobody was putting, according to Suge, nobody was putting any kind of money on Tupac's books, but they were saying his name in public, and that builds this thing of why Tupac was so angry, why he was so angry while he was sitting in jail. And I think Suge said that as kind of a double entendre, because Suge Knight's sitting in jail, and you got your Whack 100s and your Reggie Wrights invoking his name, but do you think they're putting any money on his books? Do you think they're helping try to get him out of jail? See, that's a big fat no. And I can see in the chat where it says that Whack 100 is Reggie's handler for Suge. I realize. Whack 100 may be a contact to Reggie that has some sort of reach into Suge, you know, but I don't think that's going to be happening much more. Now, I'm not saying they don't have side deals. I know there's stuff going on with a possible Suge life story that I have nothing to do with. But as far as jailhouse interviews or exclusive content coming, it's not going to come via Whack 100. They have, to my understanding, and I don't want to speak anybody else's business if I don't know it 100%. They have some kind of agreement when it comes to a project about Suge, but not necessarily um, let's get Suge Knight on a live stream. I'm telling you this right now. I'm willing to bank my credibility on it. You're not going to catch no Q&A live stream with Suge Knight on any other channel. It's just not going to happen.
And do you know the reason why? If you can speculate, what I mean, because I don't think most people know, and maybe I don't know myself, or maybe I'm just ignorant about it. But do you know what the real fallout was between Suge Knight and the head of security?
Well, I don't know. I know that there's some history there. I know that there's some history there that probably I don't even. But if you go back to the Fox special, I mean, trust me, that got back to Suge. That Reggie, what did they call it on Fox? What Ice T call it? He called it dry snitching. He called it dry snitching, and I think that has to be known about. I haven't asked Suge that directly, and I haven't been in the position to fire off questions about that person or that show. But if he has access to a lot more, and I don't want to get him in trouble, but he's got access to the outside world. He's not completely in the dark about what's being said and what's going on and what's being televised about. And he knows very well about that Whack 100 clip on Instagram.
Right. And
So
whatever happened with the whole, putting up a $10 million bill to bail Suge Knight out. You remember when that was
yes,
circulating? What was that all about? Was that just somebody boasting, or were they being truthful about that?
I'm going to speak for absolutely myself here. And I'm going to say that I think that some people like to use certain 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 things that they think might go viral to boost their own stardom, their own celebrity. And I think that that was a publicity stunt because I don't believe that that was ever in the actual works that Whack 100 went up to the courthouse with $10 million. Because the process to actually post his bail was that LA County had to vet the money, where it was coming from, and who it was coming from. And I don't believe that ever got any further than saying it on Instagram.
Okay, right
And I
on.
think, and that goes back to what the Tupac story about how people were yelling his name out while he was locked up. They were using his name, talking about free Tupac because he did have a lot of people, your Madonnas and your, you know, other people of that nature. And I think they're doing the same thing with Suge. They're using Suge Knight's name to try to build their own celebrity status, but in reality, in the background, they're it's bullshit. They're not helping him out. And I'm going to sidetrack you just for a second, but I do believe there was a live stream where Reggie Wright Jr. says that he would get, and I'm sorry to bring up the name that should not be said, but he did say that he would quit doing all this YouTube stuff if I was the one who talked to Suge. Well, I'm waiting to see him cash that check.
I don't know if I can I don't know if I can respond to that or not, but I mean, I guess if a person, and being general here, if a person's a man of their word, then they'll pretty much stick to what they said. But segueing into Suge Knight, as far as his whole, um, I guess his method of his madness, as far as him trying to get his appeal process. Do you think? And this is, and you can speculate this. If, I mean, I'm sure it's your opinion. I don't know if you're going to ask him this or not. And maybe it may not even be wise for him to answer this question because he might, get himself in trouble. But do you think him switching lawyers after lawyer after lawyer was kind of his whole plot to maybe win an appeal? Because his argument would be that he had 16 different lawyers and didn't have adequate representation.
You know, that's a really good question. But if you look at the Thaddeus Culpeppers of the world, he did have some members of his attorney. He had attorneys on his team that weren't really doing him many favors. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, if you remember when his fiancee Tory Kelly was arrested, obviously there was a deal through another attorney to sell some footage to TMZ, and that caused her to go to prison. So that's a member of his team that let him down. And then you got Thaddeus Culpepper, whose nickname was the Groupie, running around talking to every outlet possible while his client was still facing, open charges. And we know that's a fact. I mean, people at Controversy Radio had those conversations out way before Suge took this deal. So I think it might be a mixture of both. I think what's going on here is Suge Knight had an inadequate legal team, and he was also being denied. So I think it's a multi-level thing. I think he had probably a couple good guys on his side, and then a couple I guess he would call, that I've heard him say about other people, starfuckers. And I think Thaddeus Culpepper is a prime example of that, and that's just going to be detrimental to your legal defense.
Now, are you leaning towards more of Thaddeus Culpepper sabotaging it for Suge Knight with somebody, you know, controlling
No,
that?
I think Thaddeus Culpepper inadvertently sabotaged it for Suge Knight because he was out for his own fame. Because you got to think about it this way: if you're the attorney for someone as high profile as Suge Knight, and whether he gets off or goes to prison, there's your book, and you're the man. And I think that's what Thaddeus Culpepper wanted to be. He wanted to be the Johnny Cochran. He wanted to be the man. He wanted, no matter what happened to Suge, good or bad, and even better if Suge gets a life sentence, then he's out free to write books, go do the press circuits, shit like that. And I think that's really what was going on with the case of, Thaddeus Culpepper, Suge Knight, and his whole legal team. And I just want to take a quick second to say what's up, Tory. That's my dude. He's got my phone number. I'm sorry. Maybe JMKAZE could tell you I'm kind of hard to get hold of sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And shout out to Rob Brandon.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, for good reason. I mean, you're like you said, you got your nose in the grindstone. You're trying to get all this information about Suge, and I mean, most of all, people that's what they want to hear. They want to hear the real exclusive. I mean, let's put it this way, okay? Right now, if you really think about it, I think this is the holy grail as of this moment interview that you can get that has anything to do with Death Row Records. I mean, the only one that could beat that right now would be Tupac, but obviously he's not alive. But some people believe that. But beyond that, going back to Thaddeus Culpepper, when he got caught, and I don't know if you remember reading that or whatever, but he got caught, bribing some people for $25,000. I mean, was he that dumb enough to do that? I mean, we talked about sabotaging it, but I mean, how do you get caught with doing that?
I don't know. I mean, it's the same. It goes back to having legal representation on a case that hasn't even been tried yet, speaking about the case publicly to, outlets, whether they be independent outlets or not. I mean, that's just bad attorneying 101. You know what I'm saying? And I want to say something. This is not what you asked, but I want to say something out there for people that want that Suge interview to drop. And I'm going to be honest here. I could drop everything I have right now. I could put it out right now. And there's some good stuff there. There's some Tupac stories. There's some, like you guys saw the Bill Cosby stuff. He talks about Cardi B. There's all kinds of stuff that he talks about. And I would burn that bridge. And I'd get the interview. I'd get the win. I could bury other people. Or I could play the game. And that's what I'm doing. I'm playing the game. I'm being respectful. I'm holding stuff that I'm being told to hold. And I'm, like I said, it's a work in progress. This is a big deal. And if I can burn them right now and then drop what I have. But that's all it's going to be. I'll always have what I have. But right now, all I'm doing is looking out for what's best for publicity for him and what's going to be best for me. And I think that I really want the people to understand that's why you don't have 16 minutes up on my channel. You know, it's not about a competition with another channel. I don't argue with the bum who sits outside and screams that he's Jesus Christ. I just keep walking. Every now and then I got to respond, but look, I'm trying to play chess here. I'm getting some good intel, and I want to keep getting good intel, and I'm not going to burn that intel just to prove a point to somebody. Because as you yourself have seen it, you know, put up a video and they're like, you made Suge say your name. You edited it. It's fake. And it's like, dude, it's almost impossible. I've been editing audio for 8-9 years. And I tell you what, I can make someone say something out of context, but I cannot make someone form a word that they didn't say. That's damn near impossible in any audio technique.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and if it really came down to it, right? If word got back to Suge Knight that he didn't say these things, then at some point in time, he would actually come out publicly and say, "Hey, man, I never talked to you. I don't even know who this person is," and basically your credibility is shot at that point. So I don't think you'd be willing to put in all this hard work for all these years just to trick a few people and get a few views. So no, I'm totally with you on that, and I man, I people should just believe what you're coming out with because I mean it's you've already given enough proof already. It's like what more do you need? So but beyond that, we're gonna just kind of skip over and actually I don't know if you see the next scene or not, but we have this gentleman who's come out and is a recent. His name is Big Kaz, as a Big Kaz TV. He's Rolly 16's Crip, and he supposedly owns Mo Thugs. And he got from Lazy Bone. But if you've been listening, and I think you have, you know that he has claimed that he has the masters to Tupac's music, and he actually tells a story, and I'll kind of read it to you there, that him and a couple of his buddies went to Death Row Record Studios on Wilshire Boulevard, and they actually, well, according to him, quote unquote, I'm not saying this, this is not coming from me, quote unquote, they beat up Reggie Wright Jr., I'm sorry, head of security, and they beat up Suge Knight, and they stole the masters. And then I think a guy by the name of Steve Lobel was the one that told him where they were and how to, I guess, look at the encrypted folders. Have you heard anything about this? Have you been doing the research on this?
I haven't researched it heavily, but I've heard the story. Um, it sounds legit. And like I said on the last stream, that's one of the questions I have. It sounds like it's possible, but he said he stole a hard drive, right?
Yeah, he said he stole a hard drive, and that would be the next question. And he said that and it's always publicly said that possession is 9/10 of the law. But how could you steal something that's not rightfully yours? And if you listen to his interview, he says that he went to Koch, he went to E1, he went to Interscope, and he sold back a lot of these Tupac songs to the executives there. So, I mean, do you think that this story could be true, or is there a little bit of fibbing going on here?
I think there might be a little over exaggeration. I don't know if a Universal or a company like that would go out on the line to deal with a street guy with a hard drive. They would want physical masters. I'm just being honest. Now, is it a crime for him to sell MP3s or whatever he has on a hard drive? It's a civil matter. That would be a civil lawsuit. And with what's going on with the estate, which I know you want to talk about later, I mean, it's probable that he could have struck an under-the-table deal. But to me, if he did strike an under-the-table deal with these major companies, him going out and talking about it publicly would probably burn those bridges with those companies. So I think with every lie, there's a kernel of truth, and there might be a kernel of truth in that. Look, nobody more than me would love to believe that the head of security got beat up by this Rolling 60s hard drive. I just, separating the facts from fiction, I just don't know. And you know what? Big Cass is someone that I'd like to talk to about it, and I'd also like to ask Suge about that, too. I haven't had the opportunity to because it's been on another level than that, what I've talked to him about. But I definitely will talk to him about it, and I'd like to dig deeper into it. But just right off top, if I had to speculate, I think there might be some truth to that. He might have got away with some masters. I mean, Johnny J had a hard drive. Wide Awake Death Row had a whole hard drive that went missing. So, you know, I think that it's feasible that the event took place, but as far as him selling those back without the physical copies of the masters, I think it's a bit of a stretch unless, there was some kind of under the table deal going on.
All right, and that leads into when you speculated or when you actually talked about Molly, because I don't think a lot of people know who Molly is. We got a quick synopsis on the last interview who Molly was, and I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of Molly. I have no idea who she is. So, can you tell us? It's a two-part question, okay? Can you tell us who she is exactly? Okay, I know that you kind of went through that quickly. And number two, how in the world did she get access, or actually, she's pretty much the gatekeeper of Tupac's music. How did that even happen? I mean, I would think, and I'm gonna let you elaborate on that. I'm not gonna give you my thoughts. I'm just gonna let you elaborate on that.
Well, here's the thing. For those that don't know, Molly was Tupac's personal assistant who used to wash his clothes. He hired her when he had his house in Calabasas, and she was around for the month or two, before he died. I think that the way that Molly moved her way up the chain of command, from everything that I've heard and different people I've talked to, and this is another big story that I'm also working on. But I think how she got in so close is, thereafter Tupac died, his family would congregate back at his house, and this is like having a maid. This is someone close to the family, someone that you see every single day. So I believe what happened with Afeni, she formed a bond and a circle of people that she thought she could trust. And, I know this is generalizing it, but one thing leads to another, and that's her inner circle. And what a lot of people don't know, when they ask the question, they say, why doesn't Tupac's family head the estate? Well, it's because Molly's responsible for talking Afeni into selling all her publishing. That's your Tom Wally. So when people say no, it's not Molly that runs the estate, it's Tom Wally. Tom Wally's the attorney. But Molly is the one who talked Tupac's mom into signing away her publishing. And Molly's the one who headed all the lawsuits against all the people that had music of Pac's when he died. Case in point would be Kendrick Wells. Kendrick Wells was Tupac's personal assistant. Another guy who was one of, he's there all the time. He's part of the inner circle. He went to put out a Tupac tribute album in 1999. It didn't even have Tupac tracks on it. It was just a album dedicated to Tupac. And it had, stuff that maybe that they cut, but it was remixed without Tupac with maybe a different artist on it in '99. And Molly and the estate went after Kendrick Wells, and he said this to me, publicly in an interview. They went after Kendrick Wells for putting out a tribute album, and they weren't going after him because of the tribute album. They were going after him because they knew he was a producer and more than likely had Tupac songs, which he did. And so they sued him over the album, knowing that Tupac wasn't on the album, just so they could take him to court, drag him through the court, and, basically make him go broke by racking up lawyers' fees until finally the option was, give us what you got, we drop the lawsuit, or we bleed you dry with this lawsuit. And that is just one story out of many, many people that Molly was able to do this for. And this is how she gained Afeni's trust. Kendrick Wells said that Afeni called him up mad, like, how could you do this to me? And he's like, wait a second, mama. I just wanted to put out a tribute album, and you can have whatever we did. But that's how Molly has moved her way up the estate. Kendrick Wells is only one of these people. Dwayne Nettlespeed told the story about how Interscope said, go ahead and erase all the production on Tupac's albums that were unreleased, and just like your songs like Ghost and Hennessy, how only the acapellas are available, that the backing tracks were removed by Interscope. That was a move by Molly. Because, hey, if there's no backing track, if there's no production, then you don't have to pay a producer. But what's been going on with the Tupac estate for years is that there's been these shortcuts and shortchanging of people that were close and worked with Tupac, and it's all allegedly been masterminded by the person who used to wash his clothes and wake him up in the morning with a happy smile.
You know, I apologize. this has been one of the most difficult and most just man, the situation with Tupac's masters, his music, it's just all over the place. I mean, you have different people saying that they have his music, and I mean, I don't even know how I could have got to this point, but it seems like his family, for the most part, are the ones that got shortchanged off of all this.
Well, you got to keep in mind when Tupac died, and up until the point Afeni died, they were still collecting royalties on your All Eyes on Me albums and all his previous albums. They were netting, the estate was netting about $1 million a year just in royalties off albums that weren't put out. I mean, that were already put out. They didn't really have any initiative to put out new albums unless, like the tactics I'm talking about, oh, we got these acapellas that there's no production on and we can throw a Timberland on it and we don't have to pay the old producers. That's why they put out the remix albums. It was a money grab. But if someone presented, and this happened before Feeney died, someone presented, here's the originals, here's mastered originals, they still wouldn't put those out. They might take the acapella, but they're going to scrap the music to save money. And if it wasn't a guaranteed slam dunk, they stopped putting out albums because the royalties alone from Tupac's previous albums was bringing in $1 million a year. And I think it was very easy for Amali to convince an Afeni to sell her publishing away because, hey, here's money right now on something that we're probably not going to put out. And it's a slick way of gaining rights to something, the publishing rights, for a future project. But now Afeni's not here. She doesn't have the publishing rights. The family doesn't have the publishing rights. Now the estate can move forward and do whatever they want. And I can't bring up any names, but if you look right now, the estate is in several different lawsuits against people that were close to Pac and their family as we speak, trying to prevent them from keeping the photos, pictures, videos, and even stuff that they were like signed letters the estate's going after people for. So it's all war for them. I think what they're trying to do right now is just amass this large collection and put it out without paying people. Now, I'm speculating when I say that, but I will say, talking about the Big Kaz incident, is he may have some unreleased Tupac. But the question I'll ask everybody out here that's listening right now, how many internet collectors have the real rare songs? Now, these guys might have some songs that were on bootlegs 20 years ago that they've never heard on an album, and they think they've got a gem. But there's collectors out here, and there's probably some in the chat right now, that have real rare Tupac songs. And I don't know, people say, hey, I've got unreleased Tupac songs. Hey, that's great. Johnny J did too. There was this big mystery about Johnny J's 50 unreleased Tupac songs. Yeah, he had them, but they weren't nothing that we hadn't heard. I mean, listen to Your Better Days, listen to your Until the End of Time. A lot of those songs had already hit the internet. So, I'm all over the place with this answer here, but I think when it comes to the estate, when it comes to the music, and when it comes to who says they got what, there's a lot of fuckery going around, and there's a lot of Johnny-come-latelys that don't understand exactly what has hit the internet.
Well, he did mention that he sat down with Molly, according to what he says, that they went through different songs because there's three different versions, like an acapella, and there's a explicit version. I think there's a clean version of each song, and they went through these songs. And he mentioned somebody by the name of Steve Lobel. I don't know who that is. Somebody that lives or somebody that lives in Australia is the one that told him about the masters. Somebody that I don't even want to go into that story about what the reason of this person didn't like this person. But beyond that, let me ask you this: what can and if you do know, what can a Tupac unreleased song fetch for somebody that's actually looking to buy one? Do you know what somebody would pay for that?
On the internet, $2,000 to $3,000. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it all depends on the buyer, and it all depends on the song. If it's just a Tupac feature or a remix of a song, probably a lot less. But if you've got a pure, unheard Tupac song with vocals, what I'm told is it's $2,000 or $3,000. And I've been offered to buy songs in the past 5, 10 years, and that was pretty much the price tag. If you don't have $1,000, you're probably not going to get it. And if you do have $1,000, probably 20 other people have it by the time you get it.
Right, but I'm talking about like the big music studios. Do they pay the same amount, $2 or $3,000, or are they offering a lot more money for those masters or a master?
Well, it goes back to what I'm saying about what the estate does. I think the estate is going to pay as minimum as possible and try to get it through lawsuits rather than paying for it. And I think a big music studio is probably going to be really apprehensive when it comes to Tupac material. Because if you look at the situation with the Ghetto Star song, and it was a Nutso song, and allegedly, um, they got Badass. Someone sold the acapella to the record label Badass was on, and he dropped his version of Ghetto Star, not knowing that it was a Nutso song, and that blew up right in the label's face, and they lost a lot of money over that. So I think that lesson taught a lot of these studios that unless you have the physical master, and the estate's not going to come after him. I just think they're wary of anything Tupac. So to put a price on what they would pay for a Tupac master, I don't think it's as high as what people would think it would be because there's a shit ton of liability and people you're begging for a lawsuit. And I think that just like the estate has played it, why would they put out new music when they're making so much money off the old music? This is going to be a risk versus reward situation for a label. And I don't think the draw for an unreleased Tupac master would be that high in today's day and age, especially with the litigation from the estate.
Let me ask you this: now that Molly has control and the situation is pretty much passed over, how long do you think it's going to take for her to assemble the music, the different tracks, and put out an official Tupac record?
I think if they get their documentary that's been rumored that they're making off the ground, I think that would be when they would do it. But the time frame, I don't think that this music is going to get more valuable in time. I just don't think it is. So I think we don't see an official estate documentary in the next 2 years, the chances of seeing a new Tupac album are pretty slim. I've
This is
been following it for a long time, and there's been a lot of promises about new Tupac records. And when they do drop, they're not promoted as well, and it's terrible remixes. So I don't really hold out hope for another Tupac album. I'd be willing to go 70-30 that we'll never hear another Tupac album unless it's a soundtrack that accompanies a big documentary or film from the estate.
does it go platinum?
What's that?
Does it go platinum?
Yeah, I think so.
Double platinum?
I don't know. It's hard to go double platinum, but with stream sales, like with Spotify and stuff like that, artists go platinum now a lot more easier than they did in the '90s selling hard copies. Now artists go platinum based on streams. So yeah, I think that it would go platinum definitely. Double platinum, I don't know. It just depends on the temperature. I mean, everybody thought the movie All Eyes on Me was going to be huge, and it flopped.
Yeah, it sure did. You're right about that. I mean, I just think that there was a lot of pieces that were missing from that movie, and you know, the director kind of fibbed on a few things. But any other artists, and this is just trivial, any other artists that you say that are anything that you listen to today that you like that could be comparable? I mean, there will be nothing ever comparable to Tupac, but anything that you think that has potential, any artist do you think has potential?
That's a baited question because I'm going to get a lot of. But I said it last year when Damn dropped that Kendrick Lamar was the closest thing that the public had to a Tupac.
I mean, he's a good West Coast artist. I mean, and now Dr. Dre's produced a couple of tracks for him, or maybe even more than that. But do you think it's because Dre produced him, or do you think it just because of his lyrical talent?
I don't even think it's either one of those things. I think it's a cultural thing. I think it's a cultural movement. For 20 years after Tupac was killed in Las Vegas, the record industry shied away from West Coast artists. The South started popping off. You had No Limit. You had Scarface down there. You had the South going off. You had the Midwest coming out. Tech Nine started to rise up. The music industry was really shying away from West Coast, and I feel like Kendrick Lamar culturally has brought the ball back in the West Coast court. Now the game did cross that bridge, but I think as big as Kendrick is now, that culturally What he means to people is the closest thing that we see to what Tupac was in the 90s.
Anybody, anybody close as far as to Tupac? As far well, here we go. I mean, you do us content, so I'm gonna speculate that he is the greatest of all time in your eyes.
Who's that? Tupac or
Tupac.
Kendrick?
No, Tupac. No, no,
Of
Kendrick. No.
course, absolutely. Absolutely. Tupac was the greatest rapper of all time and always will be.
All right. So now we're going to jump into our next segment, which is going to be, and this is an interesting one because you actually brought a little bit up about this guy here, and you're going to see it on the screen there, and you know who that is. That's Phil Carson, who's the, I guess, the lead investigator for the FBI and now for the LAPD. Can you speculate anything about Phil Carson that maybe the fans out there don't know about Phil Carson?
Well, I think if anybody listens to that audio clip, I mean, I would be remiss not to mention the end of it. I mean, he's talking about cops getting deals with the FBI. I would love to know who the fuck he's talking about. I mean, I know probably just as much as anybody else that's listened to that Phil Carson segment. I know that there's some stuff I can't say because I'd be throwing someone else under the bus. But I think that when it comes to Phil Carson, I think it's an unbiased, credible source. When he's talking about making deals with cops, and when he's talking about police agencies covering it up and having proof of it, I mean, I think it's huge. I think the second that someone gets a hold of a Phil Carson and uses him as their information basis, and they start, researching what he has to say, looking at his documents, I think that it might be a game changer. But background on him, don't know. I was caught off guard. I knew who he was before the audio leaked, but I didn't know the scope of exactly what he had and what he was talking about when the audio leaked. It's you could speculate either way, but I think what he's holding on to is huge. I mean, it does beg the question. Listen, if you believe Phil Carson, first of all, to not believe him, you would have to give him a motive to lie. And this guy's not writing a book. He's not trying to be a Greg Kading making a TV show. So you can't prove that motive just yet. So you have to kind of take what he says at face value or what we've heard at face value. And if what he's saying even has a kernel of truth to it, that cops in the FBI even might have covered up the investigation or buried it, then it begs the question, if this was just a simple gang retaliation, why would that happen?
Exactly. Do you think that they'll get a gag order on him or stonewall him from coming out with any information regarding what he's talking about?
I don't think there's much they can do to him if he's retired. It's called this is the thing. Like with Greg, now the FBI is a different entity, of course, but when Greg Kading came out and said, I have all the evidence to the Tupac and Biggie killings, and I'm going to put it out in a book and a movie, a complaint was filed against Greg Kading. Says, hey, you're putting people's lives in danger. And what the department responded with was he is a non-department employee, which means that he no longer works for us, and we're not going to investigate it. And I think that Phil Carson will go the same route. Now, who knows what he's going to say when he finally opens up and starts talking? But I don't see legally what the FBI could do to him unless he puts out a classified document knowingly.
So you think he's not going to put any of that redacted any information that was redacted on those reports and put out a full report without any redaction?
Well, no, here's the thing. You can have an unredacted report that's not classified. Internally in the FBI, that might not be a classified report. It just might never have seen, the public has never seen it. And it might be a confidential document, but the FBI has to label something specifically as classified for it to be a classified document. So he might have lots of documents, just like Russell Poole did, that, they weren't classified, they just weren't public knowledge. And I think him being a lifelong FBI employee, that he's smart enough to know what he could and couldn't put out. And if the document on the top is marked classified and it's not been declassified, we're probably not going to see it. But unredacted and declassified are two different things. You can have an unclassified document that's unredacted. Um, Typically, documents are only redacted if they're given to the public by the FBI themselves. So there's a big possibility that, yeah, he can put out his unredacted documents if they're not marked classified.
Well, let me make a statement about a statement, and I'll lead into a question. A statement about the murder in Las Vegas of Tupac Shakur. It just seemed like they never wanted to investigate it thoroughly, and even today, it's kind of like off in the wind. We never hear anything about any, updates. I know it's been 20 plus years, but most times when crimes go unsolved for so many years, it still comes up in the public eye. People still talk about it. You still have law enforcement agents that kind of put on the back burner, but it's still something that they're still interested in. It just seemed like they were never interested in solving the Tupac case. But beyond that, the same thing goes for the Biggie case. I mean, even if the information comes out that Phil Carson puts out, I mean, do you believe that at any point, or is it even possible that they would even reopen the case at any point? Either case, you can speculate. Either case.
I think for that to happen, that it would have to go into federal jurisdiction. That they would have to prove somehow that a conspiracy to commit murder happened across state lines and take it out of federal hands. I think that the best chance of it actually being solved would be a federal investigation or a complete and utter shakeup at Los Angeles County Police Department. I don't think personally that it's Las Vegas trying to bury anything. I think that Las Vegas just doesn't want to communicate with LAPD for obvious reasons. I think it's the LAPD that's putting the hinder in this case. I think if there was a complete shakeup from the top all the way down at the LAPD, that yes, they might be forthcoming with evidence and it might get closed. But I think that, you have some people that think that Vegas is trying to cover it up too. I think it's more a case of interdepartment beefs. You know, let's take the patent letter, for example. The patent letter was delivered by R.J. Bond and Russell Poole to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And 2 weeks later, it was on the internet. Now, Las Vegas isn't going to share any information with LAPD because LAPD is basically, they're partners with TMZ. They're leaking information everywhere. And I think that a big block has been the two departments not exactly seeing eye to eye. I think that the Tupac Shakur killing is a black eye on Las Vegas, and if they could solve it tomorrow, that they would. I just don't think. I think if anything's stopping it, it's the LAPD, because if we're talking about death row records and all the information I've thought of and put out, I mean, they're going to have to own up to dirty cops, and once that happens, then they open themselves up to liability, and that'll never happen. I think that the only way we would see the case solved is if it went to a federal jurisdiction, or if the LAPD basically they fired everybody and hired a bunch of new people. Because people in power just stay in power. And I think that's what's going on here.
Well, we know that's never going to happen. But, you mentioned the LAPD, and it is in the report, and I think we've talked about this before, that the FBI had come out and explicitly said that they didn't trust LAPD. So for the FBI to come out and say that they didn't trust the LAPD, I mean, that's a bold statement there. I mean, that says a lot. I mean, and for them not to allow anybody to interview David Mack or Rafael Perez, I mean, to me that was kind of a red flag. And speaking on that, have you spoken to Kurt Poole before? I've never asked you that question before.
I have spoken to Kurt. I've sat down and had a beer with Kurt Poole. He's a good dude.
What are his thoughts on the whole case?
Can't speak for Kurt, but the impression that I got is that Kurt firmly believes what his dad believes, is that Reggie Wright Jr. Was involved, and whether or not whatever level he was involved in, that he at least knew about it. And I think that Kurt believed in what his dad believes. The conversations I had with him were very negative about Reggie, head of security, and not so pleasant about Suge. I think that Kurt Poole, and I'm very uncomfortable speaking for Kurt because, Kurt can have a different opinion. But what I take from Kurt is he believes basically Assassination One talking points is that it was, if not both the responsibility of security and Suge Knight, at least the responsibility of the security.
Let's back up a little bit. I had a talking point, and you had mentioned, and you don't have to mention in depth just general information. Gobi, I've seen him. Seen a couple of his videos. He's come out. He's talked about a few things. Have you talked to him? What did he take away from what he's working on? Any information about him that he's bringing down the pipeline?
Well, Gobi in the past, me and Gobi have had our rough spots and ups and downs. But, I don't speak to Gobi that often. Every now and then through maybe like a Twitter message or something, just, ask him a question or see how it's going. But I do know that Gobi is fighting a battle to keep, the stuff that he made and the stuff that he did with Tupac right now against the estate. And I like that he's speaking out. I mean, I watch his videos. I actually download them every time he posts them. Because I mean, some of the shit Gobi says is kind of off the wall. But I have a. I mean, well, he came out with videos that black people don't like Tupac. Am I wrong about that? But
I don't know about that, man.
but I have a newfound respect for him because I know he's fighting the good fight. And he's one of the very few people that have always repped for Pac, have never switched and flip-flopped to the Orlando Anderson theory, has put his heels back in the sand and stood his ground firm. I will say that about Gobi, our differences aside. I just know that he's fighting a good fight right now, and I like that he's talking. I say, and I even back to when I interviewed the head of security, people gave me a lot of flack for it, but I'm like, if these people after all these years are gonna start talking, let them talk. The more that people start talking, the more information we can get. And I mean, that's really all I can comment on with Gobi. I don't have a close personal relationship with him. I just do know that he's fighting a good fight, and I enjoy his uploads.
No, thank you. Appreciate that. I mean, the general fan base, supporters, they want to know what's going on in every aspect. It's not only about certain topics. So, I mean, it's good. It's good to know that. I mean, maybe you can answer one more question about Gobi. You can make it quick, yes or no. The footage that he shot of Tupac, will it ever be released?
I think so. In what context, I don't know. But I mean, if I would had to speculate, I mean, no, I don't want to say it. But I mean, there's always the nuclear button. There's always the internet dump. If some, if someone, and I'm not saying that Gobi would do this. Maybe someone else would do this. But if it gets to the point where people think it'll never see the light of day, there's a good probability that it'll just drop one day. Because I think someone would rather have it out for free than have it stole from them. And I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm just going by human nature. And I know there's collectors out there. Hell, I've got unseen Tupac footage. But I mean, if it dries up, I think either way, no matter what, if the lawsuit gains control of all that, the estate via the lawsuit gains control of all that footage, we'll see it. If they don't gain control of all that footage, we'll see it. And if it stalemates on for the next 5 years, we'll probably see it, just out of someone's frustration, whether it be a fan, a collector, or Gobi himself.
You think Gobi would cry? You think he'd be upset if he wasn't first to put that out because he wasn't first? Think he would cry? Think he'd make a video about that?
Well, I hate to defend someone that I've had problems with in the past, but I mean, I'd be upset if I followed Tupac around for 9 months with a camera filming everything he did and compiled this great work and then was in talks with Tupac and Tracy Robinson on starting our own company. Tupac gets killed and then you get robbed of everything that you did. I'd be pretty up and fight a 20-year battle. I'd be pretty damn upset about that. And I hate to white knight Gobi, but get just human nature giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure he would be pretty damn upset about it.
You think?
As would I.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish that thought, Jesse. Apologize.
No, I did. I just said I think he'd be upset, as would I.
All right. Well, man, you're laying it out here for the folks. I mean, I've asked you. Man, we've been on a live stream for an hour already, and I can tell you right now, everybody loves to hear your wealth of knowledge on Tupac. I mean, I learned some new things today, and the other day I wondered about who the hell Molly was. I felt kind of embarrassed, but I will give you this as kind of trivial. I mean, you say what you want, but at one point in my life, man, I didn't like Tupac. I didn't think he was a good artist at all. I was just like, man, this guy's overrated, et cetera, et cetera. And it wasn't until I really, really sat down, listened to Machiavelli, and I was like, you know what? This dude's a genius, man. This guy's beyond his time. He's like a visionary. And ever since then, I've liked Tupac. And segueing into what I want to ask you was, what made you like Tupac? What was your first experience with listening to his music?
He hit on my mom and my aunt in a New York hotel. I, he
Okay.
did,
I'm sorry,
and
man.
I didn't know who Tupac was, and I'd never seen or met a celebrity before, and then I looked into who Tupac was, and he was nice about it. He spoke to them for a few minutes with a wink and a smile, and kept it moving. But introducing something like that to a child, of course you're going to want to know who it is. And it was an interesting time because this was 93, 94, and then all of a sudden on the news, this rapper I just found out about for that reason shot five times a quad studio, and then goes to jail, and then there's the rape case, the Janet Jackson stories, the Vibe articles, the East versus West. He gets out of jail, he blows up. I was there for all that, watching it in live time, and it was just by happenstance. I didn't even listen to rap. I was like 13 years old. I was probably listening to some Green Day at the time. I'm
Okay.
going to keep it 100. I'll keep it a buck with
Well,
you.
hold on. Don't say
But
that. Don't say that because
yeah.
you'll lose your credibility with a certain channel. They'll come out and say that.
Yeah, not. Word policed. I didn't think that I'd be word policed by you, JM, but
No, man, I got you. Best.
well, I won't start calling people family in the chat. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, everybody's family here. I mean, I know that there's certain people that don't agree with our topics and our opinions on Tupac or whatnot, but I mean, I'm just here to do an interview to let people know about your channel. I mean, you're popular as it is. You got 31,000 subscribers, so nobody's gonna kill your channel, as they mentioned. But beyond that, favorite Tupac album?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Posthumous or before he died?
Before he died.
All Eyes on Me. It has to be All Eyes on Me because when I was a teenager, that's where the party was. If someone had All Eyes on, it was expensive back then. I'm an old cat. I don't think people understand that it was like a $30 double cassette, and back then $30 is like 60, $70. Now you had to have some money to have All Eyes on Me. So when we were young, if we had a bottle of booze and we were looking for a place to kick it, trust me, if someone said, I got All Eyes on Me, that's where we were going. And still to this day, I mean, I've been at work parties. I've been at work parties and in the squarest places possible. And if California Love comes on, I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, a soccer mom, people dance. That song still makes people get. I've seen truck drivers start bobbing their head when California Love comes on in a bar. So I would have to say, hands down, All Eyes on Me while he was alive, because that really is Pac in his best form. He's got more political albums. He's got deeper stuff. His earlier stuff is good, but that mainstream monster hit, I'll never get tired of hearing that album.
Wasn't that the first double album ever? I mean, because I remember, a little bit later on, Master P started coming out with all the double albums and started coming out with like albums every other weekend or whatever. But was that the first double album that ever came out?
Oh, I think that it's disputed by Master P.
Oh,
It
okay.
was the first double album, rap album, go platinum, but I believe that Master P beat him by a couple days with like Down South Hustlers, and I'm probably wrong on the title of it. But Master P also put out a double CD, so it's in contention for Master P. He's saying that he's the first, but you know whether or not that's true, I think All Eyes on Me was the first double CD. Well, I know for a fact it was the first double CD to go platinum.
Yeah, you're right, and that one is a close one because I did have that album, Down South Hustlers. It was a double album, but I can't remember if it came out after Tupac's album. It's pretty close though. It's very very close. I have to do a little bit of research on that. Now, we've been on
But
live.
and in the sense, and sorry to interrupt you, but the Down South Hustlers, that just wasn't one artist. That was multiple artists. So, I mean, a single artist album, I'm sure that All Eyes on Me was the first. But if it wasn't the first one, then it was the the Trailblazer.
Perfect. Now, can you tell us, because I know we've been talking about all these different topics, can you tell us any projects you're working on here in the future? I mean, as far as, elaborate the names, artists that you are interviewing, or, beyond the Suge Knight thing, because everybody knows the Suge Knight thing, like I said, is going to be the Holy Grail, and anybody else that you're interviewing right now that would.
Yes, but here's the problem. Here's the problem. If I say their names, then
Okay.
there's going to be a campaign from a lot of people
Oh,
that are going to call me a lot of names to try to get a hold of these people to try to stop it. So that's what's preventing me from saying who they are in the future. But I will say this. Love interest in Tupac's life. I am set the interview. Um, People that knew Tupac and were made famous for articles that they wrote about Tupac, I'm in talks to interview. So I'm in a whole. I'm not hyping myself up, but the level of quality interviews that I'm starting to land in talks with now are a lot bigger than they were 2 years ago. I have nothing but love and respect for some of the outlaws, and people like Gonzo and Badass, but let's be honest here, they're not selling, you know, like they used to. But there are people out there that are very, very relevant still today that I am in the works to talk to. So be on the lookout for it. And I'm not being clandestine here, but I think that if you really have been following all the drama that's been going on, if I say XYZ, then they're going to get hate letters instant. And I'd rather go ahead and land the interview and lock it down and then throw that out there instead of doing it while I'm in talks
no,
of
no.
getting these people.
I can certainly appreciate that. I mean, you're right. I mean, this YouTube game, man, it's become dirty in the past year or so. A lot of people have flip flopped, you know, and this is the way. This is what I say. I mean, stay true, stay real to the people that brought you in. I mean, you brought me in, basically. I mean, I started the Tupac thing, and I mean, you've grown my channel alone by many subscribers. So I just know differently as far as staying loyal to somebody. And the thing is if you're not gonna mess with somebody, then it's just best to just leave them alone, not talk bad about them, and just move on, carry on. However it is what you're gonna do. But all this flip flopping back and forth. One day you believe this, and then one day you believe that. That kind of just shows your credibility on where you're at. And there's some real people out there, and then there's some people that, man, you just can't trust. So that's what this becomes. So I understand exactly what you're saying, but I do want to talk to everybody that's out there to go to your channel, to look at your old videos, look at the new things that are coming in, that you're bringing in. You're working hard. You're bringing the quality content. It's not the same old stuff, week in, week out. And like I said, the numbers speak for themselves. Okay, you got 31,000 subscribers. I mean, I'm sure you could have had a lot more, but like you said, there's this hate campaign that's out there that's being pushed by certain individuals that don't want to see your channel grow and want to, get people to not come to your channel. But you know what? People are going to speak for themselves. People are going to think for themselves, and they're not going to be swayed by this whole, witch hunt that they're on. So you can't talk about it. That's okay, but the people out there, I'm sure they can understand that. We're gonna take.
Well, one thing I can talk about is I do have a Frank Alexander interview since I've had since 2013 that's never seen the light of day.
Oh man.
I do have an hour, about 40 minutes with Russell Poole, that only about 12 minutes of it has seen the light of day. So I still have interviews that they can't fucking stop now. I mean, obviously they can't stop the Russell Poole interview, and they can't stop the Frank Alexander interview. So I do have those. So I can talk about those. I have those, and I have a list on my desktop right now of interviews that I conducted that I never put out because some of the interviews that I did were talking to 2 or 3 different people about one subject. I was going to go in that direction. Instead of just talking to one person, like I know it's kind of a meme or a joke right now, like, was Tupac a blood? Instead of talking to one person about it, I was going to talk to 3 or 4 people about it and get their opinions and put that out as like a compilation. And I have a lot of interviews that are like that I never put out because I never got to, you know, editing the video. It could be tiresome, and life happens. So I do have a lot of old stuff too, but I'm working right now very heavily on landing. Here's someone I'm not talking to, but landing a Jasmine Guy. Why hasn't anybody talked to Jasmine Guy about Tupac? So we're talking that level. We're
Right.
talking a salt and pepper type level. So I have stuff, even if I never land another interview again. I got Suge Knight on the phone. I've got Frank Alexander. I've got Russell Poole, that shit that people haven't heard. I still got the content. It's just when it got dirty, it was just time to dip out. Because you put negativity into this world, I guarantee you, all you're going to get back is negativity. I've learned that lesson so many times in my life, and I want to give a shout out to DJ Gary, Realize, Duality 32, Tory, everybody that's watching, because I know that I see these names on my channel, and I appreciate you guys watching, but I've got the content, and there's more to come. I just want people to know that no matter what you hear back and forth, just like Martin Luther King said, judge a man by the content of his character. That's all I ask, and that's all I do.
That was perfectly said about what Martin Luther King said. I have to agree with you on that. Tell me, when can we expect that Frank Alexander interview to be coming out? Can you give us a time frame?
I hadn't thought about it until I just brought it up to you. I could start putting it out at any time, to be honest with you. It's recorded for 2012, so it's a little choppy. I'll have to clean it up, but yeah, I could start dropping that. Honestly, I'll probably, now that it's on my plate and I've announced it publicly, that I'll go ahead and drop it within the next week or two, or at least a good portion of it.
I think everybody will want to hear that. Rest in peace, Frank Alexander. He had a lot of good things to say, and anything that you put out from him is going to be a gem. I can tell you that right now. Do you want to take any questions, or are we running a little bit over? I don't want to keep you from the bigger things in life.
No, yeah, I got about 10 minutes if you want to take a couple.
All right. So, there's been a correspondence between Tory and Realize. They're kind of having their battle in the chat room. Can you give us a little bit of information about Lil Roddy and Yakafula, the whole incident where he got shot? Was it a murder? Was it an accident? Can you touch on that?
Well, I don't think it was an accident. I think it was a murder, and I think it was a gang-related murder. I know I've been told that there were drugs involved, and we've heard different accounts of what happened. But with the Ken Knox reports and seeing all the East Coast Crips that were in the studio in Los Angeles, from the East Coast, identified as East Coast Crips in October, right before Yafufula was killed, I think there's enough circumstantial evidence to say it was a gang-related killing other than an accident. I don't believe the story of someone twirling a gun around or accidentally pointing a loaded gun in someone's face and it going off. There's a very famous quote from Gaddafi that says, "What you going to do with that little 380? That shit won't go through my vest." And when you lift a gun and shoot someone in the face, that's an execution. That's not an accident. I have no love for Roddy. Yafufula's family doesn't have any love for Roddy, and they don't have any love for his cousin for covering it up. Now, people might like Mouton, they might love him, and that's fine. But I just know that the family doesn't, and they still hold a grudge about it. And there was definitely, admittedly, a cover-up between those cousins on what happened, and it's a real shame because you can Google it. Look, Tupac and Yafeu grew up together.
Yeah.
They were together as toddlers. And I think that if Tupac had been alive when that happened, I don't think there'd be any outlaws. Not like what we know today. And I think that it was a murder, plain and simple. What the motive behind that murder was, we'll never know. We'll never really know.
No,
but they haven't really provided a motive. And there's always a motive.
right. And the thing is was odd was that he got killed. He's one of the, if the only witness in Las Vegas the night Tupac got shot. He's, the only real witness that, he doesn't care. He's not gonna hold back. He's not gonna, withhold information. And then he ends up being the one that dies. All the other outlaws, they live, obviously, but more than anything, they as far as what they perpetrated in their music, the outlaws, and I'm speaking of the outlaws that are still alive, they were pretty weak when it came to the response back to the East Coast or back to even the people that could have been the perpetrators. They didn't. They kind of flaked out, and to me, it was just like a whole studio gangster thing. If you think about it, I mean, they weren't as hard as, like I said, they perpetuated. So, um, I think the only one that really fatal, fatal was probably the only one I felt like rode for Tupac. I mean, I don't not so.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't think he was an official outlaw. I mean, I guess you would say he is, but I don't really see him as an official outlaw. I'm talking about when we talk about the outlaws, we're talking about the main members of the outlaws.
Yes. Yeah, I had a lot of respect for Fatal. I talked to him for about 45 minutes. Um, damn near pissed him off. He damn near hung up on me. But I tell you what, I could hear the passion in this dude's voice when he talks about Tupac, and him and Nutso. And I know Nutso's not like in the very inner circle of outlaws, but I believe he was close to Tupac. You could always tell someone who had a lot of love for Tupac because no matter if they're upset or if they're irritated with you, they'll still talk about Tupac. I asked, I didn't ask Fatal this, but I asked Nutso, do you ever get tired about talking about Tupac? And he said, fuck no, I love Tupac. And that's how Fatal was. And that's why I had so much respect for Fatal. And he's one of my favorite outlaws lyrically. And it was sad to see him go, but I think he was one of the realest, and he was the one that was riding for Pac the hardest. Now, to answer some of the questions in your chat, I'm not linking Yafe Fulu's death, Yaki Gaddafi's death, to Reggie Wright Jr. I'm not saying that. I can't prove that. I think it's a coincidence. I don't believe in a lot of coincidences, but who knows? No motive's really been explained for that. And also, the chat asked about the Phil Carson interview. I don't have a phone number for Phil Carson, or I'd have him on the chat. So I just wanted to answer those real quick before those got thrown at me.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it like this, right? Where would your loyalty lie, with your cousin or with a friend? And I mean that is in respect of, if your cousin shot somebody, I mean, were you gonna tell on him or you gonna cover up for him?
It depends on the friend, and it depends on the cousin. Like I've got members of my family that are. I don't want to air them out on a YouTube channel, but I mean, I go walk by them and they be passed out on the asleep on the street, and I might not wake them up. So it just depends. I mean, was Tupac was supposed to be family, and here's a jewel. Here's a jewel. Tupac had shirts made up for all outlaws that said "Live it up or give it up." There was a code. They had a code. They were family. They were brothers, and they had a code that they lived by. Live it up or give it up. That's some insider shit, dude. There's actually T-shirts that Tupac had pressed up for the outlaws that say that, and it was a code. And if you break your blood code with someone, at that point, Tupac is just as good as your cousin. Do I know what I would do if my cousin shot somebody? No, I don't. But I think that at that time and at that point, with who Tupac was and what he meant to not just the black community, but the whole community, I think that at that point you don't cover for your cousin. Do I fault him for it? I understand that it's human nature. I just can't say that I would also do the same thing. But I'm not in that position either.
Yeah, I mean, but you talk about Tupac at 25 years old, as far as he was, as far as in the music industry, the movie industry, and just all the moves he was making. His political power that he had. I mean, he was growing as far as, and I don't see him being, furthermore, after the age of 25, much longer, would have been a gangster rapper. I mean, he was way more than that. He was a visionary, and I feel like he was going to be probably one of the most popular guys of all time. He is one of the most popular guys of all time now, but just think about if he would have lived another year or two. I mean, we can't really speculate whether he would have lived longer, but he certainly did a whole lot with the limited amount of time that he lived.
Well, I tell you what, he laid out his future plans with Tracy Robinson on tape, and it's in Tupac Assassination too. I mean, he was trying to start his own movie production company. That's what euthanasia was. That's what he was moving towards. He was trying to get movies on his own, be the lead actor, to where, and this is a direct quote from Tupac, they don't see any of it. And he's talking about Death Row Records. I think Tupac would have moved to acting. He might have even been the Will Smith of our generation. Because if everybody remembers, Will Smith is the parents just don't understand rapper, and now he's one of the biggest stars in the world. He's on Tom Cruise level. I think that a lot of people say Tupac would have been a politician, and he might have swayed politics, but I think Tupac's real ambitions, just due to the recordings and conversations with Gobi and Tracy Robinson, that he would have tried to be the man, the leading man. And once he got there, who knows? The opportunities would have been endless. But unfortunately, we never got to see that happen. But I think it's pretty clear cut what he intended to do, and that was to start his own film production. Put the Outlaws on. And that's another thing why I think that Mutah should have not sided with his cousin. I mean, if it wouldn't been for Tupac, these guys were literally sleeping on the couch, driving around his car, wearing his clothes, eating his food. This guy was feeding those guys, and his plan, once he got his film production company going, was to put those guys on. And if you're the type of person that can turn your back on that for a cousin that you may or may not be that close to, well, then I would question your loyalty to your friends. Because if you can't be a friend to the guy who put you on, and you can't be a friend to an actual friend, how are you really going to be a friend to your own family?
Right, right. Tupac affiliated or a blood?
I think Tupac was an honorary blood. I don't think Tupac was a putting in work on the street blood, but I think he repped it because that's what Suge wanted him to do, that he got love in California. All Suge Knight's homeboys were bloods, and I think he was repping whatever the hell got him out of prison and who was riding for him. And that's the kind of person I believe Tupac was after all my years of research. If you rode for him, he rode for you no matter what. And I think in Suge's eyes, with his tattoo that says Tupac, Mob, and Peace, in Suge's eyes, he was a blood. And if people really believe that Orlando Anderson killed Tupac, then that night when Orlando Anderson shot him, Tupac was a blood. So I think in all reality, he wasn't got beat in, putting in work on the street blood, but he was a prized possession of that game, and they touted him, and he was probably an honorary member of the blood. He repped him a hell of a lot. Even in the song Comrade. Comrades means red friends. And a lot of people don't get those little, he used a lot of double entendres when he rapped. The one word that he said would mean two different things. And Against All Odds, he says, believe me, it's M-O-B, so, believe me, we enemies. I know I butchered that, but, he's not talking about the mafia. He's talking about we're blood, and we're enemies, just based on that. And I think that, Tupac might not have been an official tattoo. Well, he did have an MOB tattoo. He might not have been a card-carrying member of the Pyrus, but I do believe that he was definitely a representative of that gang at that time.
Yeah, when you said the reference of comrades, red friends, is that like an analogy to like Russian?
Yeah, like your red friends.
Yeah.
Like your red dot, your comrades. Because, Soviets were referred to as Reds in the late 80s, early 90s. So when you come out with a term like comrades, that's the double entendre. Yeah, he means his friends, but he also means, listen to the song, he also means his friends in red.
Gotcha. All right. I think that was just a question for, an answer for people out there that probably didn't catch that phrase. Man, 1 hour, 19 minutes, 5 more minutes, or you ready to dip out?
I'll take 5. I'll take one more. Is there a good one? And listen, real quick, I appreciate you having me on here. Look, I'm not too, I don't want to say that. you brought up my subscribers, and look, I'm very proud to have those subscribers. It's amazing that that many people want to listen. But most of the YouTube channels that I listen to are smaller YouTube channels. I've been watching you since the start, dude, and it's an honor for me to be on your channel because I enjoy your content. So never ever feel like I'm doing you the favor. I enjoy this. This is great, and I appreciate you having me on.
Oh no, man, the pleasure's all here. I appreciate you being on. I mean, you could be doing an interview with somebody else, but I know for the longest time I was trying to get you to come on the show, but you had told me, hey, you got to get your subscribers up to at least 1,000. So that was kind of my yeah,
I was giving you shit.
yeah. I know. I just had to get to that level, and I'm still not don't have as many as I would like to have. My channel's not monetized, so I do work on some projects, and that leads me into something else. And I'll just make a quick statement about that. Is that there's a lot of people out there that kind of just look down on people that ask for or you know appreciate a donation from somebody because it takes a lot of work to put in to do the editing, to do the interviews, to do all the sound bites and things of that nature. Man, it takes long. It's not a 2, 10 minute, 5 minute process. It's like hours at a time, and then for you to render it in a high def format, it takes hours. So people want to get paid for their efforts. We're not doing this for free. It's a labor of love as far as for Tupac, right? But more than anything, I mean, we live in a capitalistic society, so I mean, people want to get paid. I mean, so I don't. I whenever I hear people talk about that, it kind of irks me a little bit because it takes a lot to do this, and for me to even jump on the interview, I mean, I was a little nervous the first time I interviewed you, and I was kind of figuring out how the hell am I going to do this, but it turned out pretty good, and you're very humble about this. So, no, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody in the chat room appreciates you coming on the show. Every time you come on, man, we get the numbers through the roof as far as people coming in, people commenting, and things like that. So, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here tonight because I know you could be doing something else.
No worries, man, and thanks for having me
So,
on. I'll go ahead.
no, I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say I'll let you finish your thought, but if we want to just answer one more question and then we'll wrap it up, and I'll leave you with your final thought. And maybe see if we can pick one here really quickly. If anybody has a question, anybody chime in if you have a question because we got about 2 or 3 minutes left. Anybody that wants to ask a question. So Ti wants to ask a question. All right, Ti, we're gonna give you the opportunity to ask the question. You know what? In the next live, we could have somebody call in. I'm just afraid that
Yeah.
somebody that we get to call in might not be, they might be vile. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, no, that's okay. I can handle that too. One person in the chat says stop with all the blood bullshit. Look, I'm not trying to go out there and paint Tupac as something that he wasn't. But you got to remember, MTV and Tupac's mom put out an anti-gang commercial with Tupac and showing that he died and saying this is what happens when you're in a gang. I mean, that was from MTV and the estate. So I'm not trying to perpetuate some kind of myth here. I mean, Tupac had an MOB tattoo. Suge Knight has Tupac arrested, mob in peace tattoo. I mean, it could be from the Bay, but they put that speculation out there. I didn't. They put it out there. And I tell you what, I've spoken to Joseph Bailey. I've spoken to Tracy Robinson several times. She's really hesitant to get on an interview because she doesn't want to roll in the negative shit. She only wants to spread positivity, and she's cool as fuck for that. Hold on a second. I lost it. But if they're asking me about Mob James, I think that's what they're asking me about. They say Big James. But if it's Mob James, I think Mob James is a complete fraud. He's a hanger-on that Drake Kading got to say to do an interview. And the Yeezy 808 asked about FBI trailing Pac that night. It's possible. It's very possible. I mean, there was an active RICO investigation on death row. I mean, a racketeering case. So, I mean, it is possible. There were cops that were supposed to be in Los Angeles that were in Las Vegas that night. It's fight night in Vegas. If we think that there's not a presence of FBI there, regardless, I think it would be naive. So I think it's a good possibility that they were being trailed, but I don't know if anybody ever noticed it. And I hope that answers your question, EG808. I appreciate it, everybody. I gotta go, JMKAZE. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us tonight, and everybody go to his channel, subscribe. He has 2 channels. Thank you, Jesse. We will catch you on the next live if you do another live with us, and that pretty much wraps it
Of
up.
course. All right, and stay tuned, guys, because I got big shit dropping, and those aren't empty words. I'll see everybody later. One love, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jesse. All right. That was. I'm gonna have one person call in. Jamar, I'm gonna let you call in one time. We're just gonna go and let you speak your words. I'm gonna leave the number here. It's gonna be on the chat. You can call that number. We'll go ahead and plug you in if you want to call in. That was a great interview, guys. Jesse always comes with the bombshells. He always comes with the good stuff. So anybody that wants to call in, there's a number 864-642-6094. South Carolina, Paris Island, on a military base. You can call in. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. Appreciate you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Tory, for showing up. Thank you, everybody. So we're gonna take this last call. Anybody you want to call in, Jamar, and you can ask your questions. I don't know if I can be much of any help as far as questions that Jesse would know, but you know. Real Ice, appreciate you being here. Memstar, as always. I think you're in Australia right now. I've never been there. So we will. So here we go. All right.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep.
All right, you're on.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. Who's this?
This is Jamar.
Jamar. How you doing?
Yes. Kazi?
That's me. How you doing?
How you doing? I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, man. This is the last little bit of the interview. It's a good interview, man.
Thank you.
It's good to see a little bit of the wave rock to the other side a little bit, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I mean, there's 2 sides to every story, right? I mean, and it just depends on what side you lean on, you know, what story you believe in. As of me, I try to stay unbiased, but I mean, you got.
I try to too. I try to stay like objective, you know, logic and to the facts. You know what I mean?
Right. We always see you on the chat rooms all the time. It's here on ours, Jesse's and mine. Tell us your thoughts on Tupac as far as what you believe is to be the truth, and also if you want to.
The truth too is his death.
His death, Biggie's death.
Before I answer this, are we live or is just me and you talking?
No, we're live right now. Everybody's listening right now.
Okay. So, what I think about his death, or because I think Tupac. I think really why all this shit is so muffled. You know, you go back to like Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X, and certain things like that. When certain people are a threat, you know what I'm saying? Like you have to do certain things, but like it comes down to intelligence. If you study intelligence within different countries, all countries have certain intelligence agencies and stuff, you know. If you study their psychological warfare methods, then, you know, you get a good glean on how they do certain things. But I think that, you know, the FBI was there when Tupac got killed and stuff. But, like, the thing about Jmix and RJ that I am, because the facts are more on their side than Reggie. I mean, I don't hate Reggie or nothing like that, but like, there's some stuff that Reggie, like, people get blinded by the lights, and Reggie ain't coming to the table with everything on his accountability, on his own actions, because some shit happened on his watch, you know, and Tupac's dead, and, you know, well, Reggie, what happened, you know, and I think that, you know, he was just assassinated, you know, and at times when people talk a lot, it gets more convoluted, you know, and stuff. And I think that
assassinated by who, though? Assassinated by who?
Good question. Well, if you go to the documents and stuff, and then you see what Gaddafi said, and the person that was driving the car looked like a bitch or whatever, then you look at the patents, so you get a glimpse on who that might have been. And I think that the Orlando Anderson thing is a little bit of a twist. They get people to think a certain way, but it's not really that way, Well, and I think the patents are, if you look at that video, I know Kazi, you seen the video that Jmix and RJ put out with the patents with the lie detector with the woman?
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen it. I've seen it.
To me.
Yeah.
That,
with his ticks that he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that was gold. So like
so they could be
mechanics or anything like that.
So they could be. So are you saying that they somehow could be involved in the murder?
Oh, they most definitely are involved. Most definitely. And one thing I would like to say, Jmix said something earlier about what was he saying about Tupac? I can't remember. No, go ahead though.
No, I was going to say, I mean, just because you didn't pull the trigger, and I'm just being general here, doesn't mean that you weren't involved in a conspiracy of murder, because if there's 10 guys
exactly
that were involved in the murder, I'm speaking in general here, doesn't matter who pulls the trigger, if they all knew about it, they're all going to jail, unless, a couple of them cop a deal or whatever. But for the most part, I mean, you could say that both of them were conspiracies, Tupac's and also Biggie's.
Well, when you read the book, and how much money was at stake, then it makes more sense on why they was going to kill Suge and Pac. You know what I'm saying? Why leave Suge there? You know what I'm saying? It didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't have a real shooter.
Right. Well, let's talk about one thing that a lot of people don't talk about. We talk about the video footage of the whole Peterson Museum thing that night that happened.
Yeah.
They were saying the cameras weren't that great, maybe black and white cameras, but I seriously doubt they had black and white cameras in 1987, especially for the Peterson Museum, being that there was all these expensive cars. So I would like to say that to get the insurance the insurance policy down, they would use color cameras. And the whole thing about it being grainy, all this other stuff, I mean, you could identify Tupac in the MGM Grand video when he was walking off. So
absolutely, he has a distinctive walk.
Yeah, well, everybody in that video you could identify. I mean, that's how they identified Orlando.
Absolutely,
that's how they identified Orlando Anderson that night being in the MGM Grand. I mean, they had thousands of people.
Don't you think it's funny? Like, I know you've probably seen Greg Kading's little thing he did, or whatever, but he showed his video on the Biggie thing. You remember that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just it's funny how he has that. You know what I'm saying? Nothing else. But I'll just leave it at that.
Well, he molds a story to reach a certain audience, and people believe the story.
Yes.
And he leads with his questions. If you listen to the interview,
I think he gets paid for it. I think that's literally he gets paid for it. Certain people are agents, and they don't have to have a regular job, and they don't have to worry about paying the rent. He's one of those type of people. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, he made a series out of it and made a book. So, I mean, he's pretty much laughing all the way.
Because he's not an honest person. If Jmix say something and I think he's a little off, I might want to correct, but it's because he's going off research and he doesn't have an agenda. But Kading, it proves he has an agenda. Reggie, they're attacking people. I thought, we're trying to get the truth about this. We shouldn't get personal about anything. We should just do whatever we can to find the facts, to find the truth about this. We shouldn't be up here, making videos, exposing people's houses and where they live and stuff. That's going way too far,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
You feel me?
No, I got you, man.
That shit ain't right.
It's not.
That shit ain't right. That's dirty pull.
You're preaching, you're preaching to the choir, my brother. I live and just to let everybody know, I live on a military base. I live in South Carolina. So
I know you do.
They're going to have to get by, checkpoint. And that's the only way they're going to get to where I live at. But, yeah, it's pretty bad that they do that kind of stuff, It just kind of shows you what direction, the investigation's headed on with certain people. So, But I know that you've been wanting to
And
come
like,
in for a while.
yeah, yeah, I have, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to. You know what I'm saying? Because like I was a fan of Tupac when he was alive. You know, and so it broke my heart when he died. So like it really does affect me. You know what I'm saying? I really do care. You know, so like finding a resolution to how he got killed and stuff, like, it's really close to my heart. You know what I'm saying? So like I really, I'm always interested in it. So I always keep up on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think like our side, you know what I'm saying, our side, you know what I'm saying, got more proof on what's going on. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people kick on RJ and stuff, and and I don't really like it. You know what I'm saying? He's not that bad of a guy. You know what I'm saying? He has a lot of documents and stuff that is not everybody else has access to. So everybody should, put their prejudices to the side and, what their predetermined notions to the side and just listen to what this man has to say real quick. You know what I'm saying? That's from a document. Or is it his opinion? And you make your decision off of it. But RJ's cool,
Right. I can't accuse anybody of Tupac's murder or Biggie's murder, but I can
Yeah.
tell you that I'm not pro murder rap. I'm not pro murder rap, and
I'm not.
And I don't believe that Orlando Anderson.
And I bought that book. Thinking that I was getting the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't believe that shit. I don't believe that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because I learned a lot about FBI, CIA, and all that. But I still got a lot more to learn. But like, Tupac's murder is not as hard as like Kennedy's murder. You know what I'm saying? I've been studying Kennedy's murder for years, and like Tupac's murder is like a lot more simpler. So like when Reggie comes out and says certain shit and does certain things, I think of, you know what I'm saying? Why is he doing this? You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be guilty. I wouldn't even do anything if I was the head of the security. I would just kick back in the cut and not do nothing. Like why is he on YouTube? Why is he doing stuff? He's trying to influence people's opinions. You know what I'm saying? I would do nothing. I would just kick back in the cut. Like Reggie makes me suspicious of him because of his own actions. And that's on some real nigga shit. You know what I'm saying? Like if I was Reggie and I did whatever it was, or I did not do whatever it was, I would just kick back in the cut. Like, why is he disparaging? Why is he putting so much effort into this? Why? Is he getting money for it? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It makes me look at him with suspicion.
I wouldn't even entertain anything if it wasn't true. I just wouldn't even come out. I mean, everybody has a reason for why they do something. I mean, I'm not saying it's the right reason or the wrong reason. I'm just saying everybody has a reason for what they do. I mean, everybody handles things a little bit differently. I mean, me personally, I would just be like, whatever, I don't care. So, but to each their own, man. As far as what they believe, or
Kazi, do you remember that video that RJ and Jmix did with the lady, the white lady with she could detect the body language or whatever? Do you remember that shit?
Yeah.
That shit was like a slam dunk. You know what I'm saying? Everybody should watch that video. That was a slam dunk.
I don't know.
If you only get it, you keep up on it.
I don't know if I don't know if it's on. I don't know if it's on. I think it got struck. It got struck by this guy.
Oh,
this guy who's a DJ. I think he's a DJ. I mean, I can say. I mean, it's kind of like me saying I'm a black belt. I'm not a black belt, but it got struck. But yeah, I get what you're saying, man. Like I said, I appreciate everybody's opinion. I mean, I don't agree with everything, but
I appreciate you.
You pretty much, thank you. Pretty much.
I'm a supporter of you. You know that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, not everybody, a supporter of me, but that's okay. I mean, I'm all right with that. I respect people's opinions. They can believe whatever they want.
Look, I'm gonna say this off top. I support you even more than RJ because you're an upcomer. I always fuck with you, so I support you more than everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I appreciate.
I'm gonna keep it real. I'm keep it honest. I'm gonna be very respectful right now. But like when Jmix, when you told him to get to the $1,000, 1,000 subscription or whatever thing is, it made me feel a certain type of way. But I'm loyal because I'm loyal to you. But you know what I'm saying? Like you deserve that regardless. You know what I'm saying? I'm loyal to you. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? Like when you said that, you know, 1,000 thing, I was like, huh?
Nah, I got you, man. No,
That's just me.
it was just kind of jovial of him to do that. I mean, he wasn't being
I
serious,
know,
but
it's jovial. I feel you. No, it's all good. It's all good.
but anything else you want to speak on? Anything else you want to, you want to plug anything?
Nah, man. The only thing I want to say though is that like just keep Tupac's memory alive, man, and like we're all gonna get by. And like I really do think the truth is all on the side. Like Jmix, RJ, like you know what I'm saying. These guys are getting attacked because they have the truth. You know what I'm saying? So they're getting attacked so that nobody will listen to it. You know. So that's all. And you doing your thing, and you work, so you fine. You know what I'm saying? I work and I'm just, you know what I'm saying? I just hope everybody just live life good, man. You know what I'm saying? I just hope everything's all good for everybody, man.
No,
I got love for you. I'm always going to follow you.
thank you, man. I appreciate that. I mean, JMX appreciate that. RJ Bond appreciates that. I mean, we all appreciate that.
Yeah,
It's just a movement, man. I mean, both sides of the movement. Ultimately, the main purpose of all this, the main goal is just to have some closure, man, for either Tupac or Biggie, whether or not it comes
absolutely.
today or it comes 20 years from now. So,
Absolutely. Yes, yes.
do you want to give a shout
Be
out
safe,
to
brother.
where you're from, where you're calling from, as far as state?
I'm from the south side of Tacoma, Washington.
Okay.
And shit, let's give a shout out to my mom. Her name is Betty.
Okay.
Give a shout out to my homeboy Brandon. You know what I'm saying? My homeboy Seth. And, you know, that's it.
All right.
You know,
All right, man.
Good looking out, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you calling in. We'll catch you on the next live.
Good looking, brother.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Be safe. You too.
All right. Got one more time for one more call. If anybody wants to call in, I think you know the number. If you don't know the number, let me know. I'll go ahead and put you in. Got 5 minutes. 5 minutes for one more call. If you want to call in, 5 minutes. Anybody in the chat room want to call in? I don't care what side you're on. You can say whatever you want to say, as long as you keep it intelligent and don't get vile. We'll be okay. Get a day job. I do have a day job. I probably make more money than you do, bro. And that's real talk. If you ain't making 120 a year, you ain't on my level, man. I know you're in here making jokes and stuff, but you gotta be intelligent, man. Anybody else out there they want to call in, talk about Tupac, Biggie, whatever your choice may be, we can go ahead and do that. You're gonna be up for 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. But I appreciate everybody being in the chat room tonight. Even the haters, man. Even the haters that are in here, just causing ruckus because they're sent by whoever or wherever. That's okay. You guys are allowed in here too. You guys are welcome. Speak your mind. Say what you gotta say. End of the day, doesn't change anything. And Jesse's giving his opinions about what and who could be the killer. Yeah, your house 300,000. That's great, man. That's great. I'm happy for you. Four cars. Great. What else? Is that it? I'm gonna go ahead and put you as administrator right now. Let me go ahead and put you as the. Let's see here. I think I have you as a moderator. Let me go ahead and add you there real quick, and I'm gonna get that number to you. Did I make you? I think I made you a moderator. Easy 808. Let me go ahead and make you one too, Jesse. You can kick these people out of this room that are acting a fool. All right, so we're gonna take one more call, and then we're gonna call it a night. All right, there's another right there if you want to call in. Got 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna call it a night. Great interview though by Jesse tonight. He had a lot of good information to share. We're looking forward to the new interview from Frank Alexander. Hopefully, you can put out a snippet of that, maybe a 2 minute snippet or something like that, so we can get kind of an idea of what he's going to speak about. That'd be really really good.
Press 1 to start the call or 2. The call will start at the beep.
All right, you're on the air. Who am I speaking to?
This is Tory.
Tory Schelske.
What up? What up, Kaze? Yeah, what up, dog?
What's up, man? How you doing tonight?
I just wanted to call in and clear up that little argument in the chat, realize was really dropping, that Roddy knew something about, Reggie and that he'd sing on Reggie because he got 35 years. And that's what I was arguing about. It wasn't about, did I think Yacht got, murdered, X, Y, Z. It was all about, whether or not Roddy was connected to Reggie, which I don't think he is.
No, I got you. So you think that was just a pretty much a coincidence, or I mean, no one can speculate who the culprit was behind, him doing that. It could have been an accident, but I mean,
I 100% think that there was some type of beef between those two. It wasn't, I was twirling a fucking loaded gun around and accidentally shot fucking Yak in the face. That doesn't happen necessarily on an accident. Not with people. I mean, I guess they were kids, but at the end of the day, like, I don't feel like Mutah's cousin would kill Yak on purpose for Reggie Wright. But I do feel like there's something fishy going on there, just like there's something fishy throughout anything that's connected to Tupac. And it's always been that way, and it'll always be that way. And I feel like it's to the point where, even if we get 100% of the truth, I don't know if we could believe it, because there's so much confusion and so much bullshit and he said, she said, and all that. So it's like, who knows what the fuck happened, really? I mean, I don't feel like I'm any closer today of knowing who killed Tupac is the day he died. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know who killed Pac, and I'll keep looking, I'll keep paying attention here and there when I can, but it's unclear to me still. I feel like I've tried to believe the Baby Lane bullshit, but it's like that smells just as fishy as the Roddy and Yak shit. So like I said, it's just all fishy all the way around, and the only people that get away with type of shit are the police. So somewhere along these lines, those motherfuckers are the ones. I mean, I don't know who, what, when, where, why, when, and all that type of shit, but who knows? Because there's no clear cut this and this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the most fundamental thing is that people don't really see that the LAPD was corrupt from, the early '90s, and I think people just seem to ignore that fact that the police department. There's no way that in the world they would ever cover up for their own department to save money for the city of LA. I mean, based on a rapper's murder, I mean, you're looking at either exacting justice for Biggie Smalls or to pay Little Wallace $400 million and actually admit that David Mack and Rafael Perez had something to do. I'm not saying they pulled the trigger, but I'm saying at some point maybe they were involved in a conspiracy that they would actually fess up to it. I mean, I just don't see it as something that would be plausible that they would do that. But beyond that, I mean, we can't really speculate who it was that did what they did to either Biggie or Tupac. But the other people that we never really mention, or people never really mention for that matter, are the guys who were actually the ones that were in power, the ones that had the money, the ones that were pulling the strings, like Dave Kenner or even Jimmy Iovine. I'm not saying that Jimmy Iovine had anything to do with the murder, but what I'm telling you is that from a financial standpoint, Jimmy Iovine, in my opinion, was pulling money off the top. So maybe even Dave Kenner. So we leave a lot of other people out of the equation, and we only focus in
I
on
agree.
certain people. So
I agree 100%.
but some
Well, and
things are
that
just
just goes
obvious.
to, well, and they're painting that narrative, so they want you to go down that street, and you can believe that, or you can look at other facts, other sources that they decided to either pay attention to or not pay attention to. But at the end of the day, I feel like they're always painting a narrative for us to follow along, and like I said, I don't know if Baby Lane pulled those triggers. I believe that Baby Lane had something to do with that shit, and I think Reggie Wright knows. And I think that, the truth might come out someday. But then I always flip and think on the other side of that coin, and it's like, I've been told for a long time in, my circle of people that I hang out with and that I grew up with, that, three people can keep a secret if two of them are dead, so who knows? Who knows? I mean, with the conspiracy, there's a lot of moving parts in there, and a lot of people to keep their fucking mouth shut. But, when there's money and power, you can pretty much corrupt goddamn near anybody with the right dollar amount in these days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the information's out there, and really, it's up to people to determine what the truth is for them. It doesn't always mean that it's necessarily true, but I mean, you pretty much can look at it objectively and figure out whether or not it makes sense for you. I can't sit here on my show and accuse anybody of murder because I don't know exactly who was part of that. But I will say that there are people that do seem suspicious of doing certain things, and I'll pretty much leave it at that, man.
Well, absolutely. There's absolutely people that are doing suspicious things. We can hop off into, everybody switching sides here 5 or 6 months ago, and guys that Jesse helped build decided that, they were going to switch up because, when Jesse had the interview with Reggie Wright, he didn't go hard enough or didn't say the right things, this, that, and the other. And then the next thing you know, that guy has a video out with Reggie Wright, and, since then they've been, butt buddies for the whole time. So what's that tell you?
And it's like I said, the YouTube game is a dirty game. I mean, it's just like choosing sides, man. I mean, you just whatever makes sense for you. I mean, ultimately, when you pick your friends, I mean, those are the people that you're gonna at least feel like you can trust. So, I mean, if that's who you feel like you can trust, whoever it may be, then hey, man, to each their own. I mean,
Absolutely.
I pick it.
Absolutely.
I'm non-biased.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I'm non-biased. I just try to stay objective. All this other hoopla that's going on the side, all these other things that are going on, I just stay out of that. I don't have any beefs with anybody. I mean, there are some people that do some stupid stuff that is really uncalled for, but I'm not the YouTube
Absolutely.
police. Just live and let be. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I'm not trying to perpetuate any type of situation with any of those other YouTube channels, but it's just been crazy to watch this whole deal on YouTube unfold for these past couple of years with Jesse and the Tupac case as it is by itself, and all the speculation from all sorts of angles. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm glad all of it's being said, because it does keep Tupac alive, and we do get to find new information and still enjoy his music on a daily basis. So I mean, I think it's all great. The beef does need to be settled somewhere along those lines, but as far as I'm concerned, some of those people need to be called out for their bullshit, because they're straight bullshit. A ton of the time that they're running their mouth.
Yeah, I know some of it's kind of tapered off a little bit. Some people have just kind of went away quietly just because I mean, at the end of the day, it's not worth beefing with each other. I mean, really, ultimately, it's
Absolutely,
about Tupac, right? But the only thing that I
for
didn't
sure.
agree with was that they put people's families in danger. They put people's houses on the internet and things like that. I mean,
Yeah,
that
dude, that's super fucking low.
that's pretty messed up. I
So,
mean,
absolutely.
people are gonna handle their business if somebody shows up to somebody's house. It might not end well. I mean, I just put it like that. I mean, for certain people. So, um,
Absolutely.
you know, doing those kind of things is a sin in my book. But um, man, I appreciate you calling in. I mean, you've been,
I appreciate you having me on here,
yeah,
brother.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've been a supporter, and I know that you're pretty brash, man, in the in the chat
Yeah,
rooms.
I have a tough time with, I don't have much of a filter, if any at all. So, I'm not in there to try to troll anybody, and I'm not into, I don't jump in there to argue, but like, with tonight as an example, like you guys were talking about a topic, and homeboy just kept on with that same comment about Roddy talking about so and so, and it's just like, God damn it, stop that, because if they really wanted to talk about it, they would have hopped on it. I think the only reason why you guys even touched it is because we went back and forth so much. So I'm sorry about that. I stand by everything that I said. But yeah, I thank you for having me on, and I'll be floating around.
Yeah, man. No, we appreciate you calling in. I mean, it's not very often. Well, it's never been often that I've ever heard anybody come on live. It's just kind of something we're kind of experimenting with as far as getting phone calls in or whatever. So,
Absolutely.
I appreciate your support. And if there's anything you want to plug, man, before you hang up, you're more than welcome to.
No, I'll say thank you, and to Jmix, y'all just stay fucking pressing on, and maybe eventually we'll figure this whole shit out.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Appreciate you calling in, man. You have a good night.
Take it easy, fellas.
You're welcome. Take care, man. Oh man, it's been man. This has been a great show tonight. We got to hear some voices of some people that called in, and matter of factly, we're probably at the 1 hour and 57 minute mark, and I didn't think it would ever have been this long. Does we want to get one more phone call in? Maybe a quick 5 minutes, and then we'll call it a night. Wrap it up. Again, please subscribe to Jmix's channel. He has two channels. He has the Death Row channel. Basically, all you got to do is just go to the search filter and YouTube page, type in Jmix, and both of his channels will come up. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all the latest and greatest that's coming down the pipeline from him. And he's coming out with some good stuff. As I mentioned before, we got the Suge Knight interview, snippets, tidbits. He has to do it that way, to keep people interested. Even though people are going to be interested anyways, he's coming out with more stuff. So we got one more. We got time for one more call. If anybody wants to call in, I don't care who it is. You can call in. Doesn't matter who it is. You can call in. You can speak your mind. Don't worry. No one's tracing numbers. No one's doing any of that. You can trace this number if you want. It's in South Carolina, Paris Island, on Marine Base.
Press 1 to start the call or 2 to decline. The call will start at the beep.
All right, this last call. You're on live. Who am I speaking with?
Hey, what's going on? It's T.I.
This is Ti. Is this the real Ti, or is this just a Ti?
Nah, just T.I., just T.I. Just,
All right, you're on live. What you got? What's on your mind, man?
did you see the interview with Big Reds on the Al Prophet show or content on YouTube when he was speaking of when he came out the hospital? A car, he was there, with his child at the hospital, and a car pulled up and asked him if Biggie was dead. You know, he never said the name of the person, and never said who the person was. But apparently, he knew who it was, and I was just alluding to it possibly could have been Amir, it possibly could have been Mac, or somebody involved on that hit, because he knew Biggie was dead before it was even announced to anybody.
Can't say that I've seen that video, man. I can't say it. All I will say is that you know nobody the night of that shooting has ever identified Poochie Faust as being the killer or the assailant, but people
Right.
like Little C's gave a sketch composite of a guy who strikingly looks like Amir Muhammad. So you got to ask yourself, what are the odds that a person would be able to identify somebody's attributes to a guy who's drawing a picture, right? He's just drawing a picture.
Right.
He doesn't have a picture in front of him. He's just drawing a picture by identification, and that
Mhm.
identification happens to be a striking resemblance of Amir Muhammad. It doesn't look like Poochie Faust. It looks like Amir
Right.
Muhammad. If you look at the video,
Exactly. Exactly.
Nick
And
Broomfield,
then just
you see the both pictures,
go ahead.
right? And
Uh-huh.
he has both pictures. He has that other picture of somebody that looks like the Nation of Islam. Then he has the original picture. He picks the picture, and the guy asks him, "What guy? What guy is it?" He picks the one that Little C identified. So that's all I'm saying about Amir being Muhammad. I mean, being involved. I know he was a mortgage broker, so that gives him some, credibility in the being innocent world, right? But and I'm being
Right,
facetious when I
right.
say that. But go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish your thought on that.
I want to add in onto that, like two facts that I watch all channels and I respect y'all guys too highly. First of all, let me say that much. I like what y'all do, and but I do watch all of it. But I just want the truth. I don't care about all that side and bias crap. I just want simply the truth and what I believe is true. But I will point out two facts that I argued with some of those bozos on other stations on. There are two video uploads. I want to say Jmix put one up a while, like years back, with Frank Alexander stating that he had got an epiphany when he had thought about some things. His mind changed over the years, but he recalled seeing David Mack at death row parties. This is on YouTube. You can pull it up. You know, back around 95, late 95. And also, there's some interviews. There's some documents in LA Times where Kevin Hackett stated that he's seen David Mack on numerous occasions at private death row functions. One in particular was the Black Image Award in '95. So these are two documented, things that are there, which also we know for a fact that Amir Muhammad is close friends with David Mack. You can't make this up. It's evidence to support this. So I think it was maybe Kenneth McLean or one of them bozo guys that was trying to argue me down. Like, dude, this is documented. This is already out there. You can't go back and omit something that's there. The same way Greer took out a murder rap and said that Kevin Hackett memory was bad. He was going, but he left out. He feared the retribution from the LAPD, death row, and the blood gang. That was his exact words, but he didn't put that in murder rap. And I bought the book like a dummy as well, because just thinking whatever. But people want the truth, man. You can't. We people are not dumb. We know they hiding shit. They hiding other things. It's obvious. There's too much evidence that's put out there from whether it's Russell Poole, Gene, or Kevin Hackett, or even Frank or Moore. It's too much evidence over the years that stick.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's think about
And
this.
it's obvious that Reggie is guilty. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. He's speaking more so than he ever did before.
Well, I'll speak on the LAPD. The FBI files that are redacted. You can see a little bit of information if you go to FBI.gov and you look at the Biggie files. You'll see on there that it says officers, which would be the main officers that are always mentioned that were implicated in this crime supposedly. It's David Mack and Rafael Perez. So when they put officers in there, that means that it's two officers and not just one. So it goes to
Right.
question who were those officers when the LAPD, when the FBI is talking about the LAPD. Who are the officers they're talking about within the LAPD? There's a question. So
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, there's things that you can't omit. And then going back to the camera footage again, it being 15 million, $20 million cars in there. I know they had, it begs the question that they had color cameras in there, right? And
Yep.
there's no grainy footage because I mean, if you want to say grainy footage, then we'd have to go back to 1996 when the MGM Grand had their cameras, and you can look at their cameras and you can identify who that person was. How do you think they identified
Exactly.
Orlando Anderson? through the cameras. The same
to
camera,
the cameras.
the consumer camera that they were shooting with on the side of the street at the Peterson Museum is not the same kind of camera that you use for filming possessions as such as 15 million, $20 million cars. Those are not the same kind of cameras they use. That's a consumer camera compared to a professional camera. So that argument to me falls flat about the footage. And even Eugene Deal came out and said himself, "Where's the footage at?" I mean, you mean to tell me that we were in a 15, $20 million assets and there's no cameras, no footage?
Exactly.
So who pulled? So
Exactly.
who pulled it? That's the question.
Who had that kind of power? Who had that kind of power to pull that footage? And that's a common sense, a logic. You don't have to be a detective or went to psychology class to even understand that. That's just pure fucking so part of my language. That's pure logic. Just who had that kind of pull. And also there was a lady who was a sponsor was a part of that party that night, or she was there 2 or 3 days prior. This is documented as well. Her dad was a big time attorney, and she recalls seeing David Mack or Perez, either one of the two, there 2 or 3 days prior, like kind of casing the place out. And she didn't, she thought it was, when Biggie was murdered and their names came up as suspects, she mentioned to her father, like, hey, should I report this? And he was telling her, don't get involved. It's too deep. Don't get involved. It's going to be a big mess. And this is like all documented as well.
Right. And
But
just
then again, there's so much evidence to show that LAPD was involved either directly or indirectly. But common sense is definitely directly.
well, here's
You
the other
know,
thing too. You brought up Kevin Hackey, and he's been publicly ridiculed for retracting his statements. But at this given point, when he kind of alludes to maybe Amir or David or Raphael being tied to this conspiracy to kill Notorious B.I.G. and actually execute it, right? Um,
right?
do you think that? And I'm being general here. Okay, this is a rhetorical. Do you think that he would actually come out and say today, yes, David, Raphael, Amir, they're involved. I have the documents or whatever it is that makes it believable. It's not gonna change anything. It's not gonna change the
Right,
case. It's not
right.
gonna. This
It's
case
not
is buried. I mean, basically, they wanted to get from underneath this lawsuit, and once they got into the lawsuit,
and
the case was closed.
and that was their whole goal. Yeah, exactly. That was the whole point in case. And within 20 years of doing so, and using Greg as a puppeteer, that was the whole objective to do that.
Well,
On the Tupac thing, I still think the Crips were involved, but we so it's pulling the trigger. I think we don't know. I think we never. But I do definitely think the Crips were definitely involved in that. You can't. I mean, it's just this is my opinion. I could be wrong, but I still think they were definitely involved somehow.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, man, look, you know, I don't have the same sentiment as you, but I respect everybody's opinion, and I mean, I'm sure you have your reasons why you believe they did it, and I mean, you be more than welcome
And,
to speculate if you
and
want to.
right, and I have one more question to ask you on this because I watch all your videos as well, and I remember me and you was coming before back and forth, and give me your take on Kevin Gaines. Where do you think you fall in there? I'm kind of stuck between that right there because this is what I know. Kevin Gaines, for a fact, he was friends with David Mack and Perez. That's factual. So what's your take on that? And supposedly, was it Sharitha he was supposed to be dating at the time? Suge's ex-wife, right?
I mean, that is
And also, it was stated that he was in Vegas the night Pac was there on a special assignment. But I'm kind of iffy. I'm kind of torn between that.
well, all those talking
I need
points.
more.
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, Kevin Gaines, as you mentioned already, there's a possibility.
Hmm.
I can't say if he was there because I wasn't there, but there's been speculation that he
Right,
was there.
right.
2 days before, 2 days after. I mean, for what we don't exactly know. I mean, you can go off the deep end and say whatever you want. The other thing was the speculation that he was dating her. I don't know. I mean, I've heard that he was this good guy. He just was from a rich family or whatever it may be. The person that knows more information about Kevin Gaines is Brian Bentley, who was either his previous partner or was a really good friend of his. I know there was a little bit of like separation between the white officers and the black officers inside of death row, as far as like, and I think it came out on Who Killed Tupac, as far as who's getting a job, at what place, and in other words, some people were getting better jobs than other guys were. So there's a separation there. Frank Liga kills him. We don't know exactly why. Was it a coincidental run-in that they had when they were
Or was it a sanctioned hit?
or was it a sanctioned hit? I mean, if
Right.
let's just say that, okay, let's just give a scenario here. If it was a sanctioned hit, okay, we'll never know because things like this get buried. I mean, people will say, "Well, show us the proof and give us the proof. Show us the proof." Well, if I had a way to give you the proof that LAPD was involved, like in the Biggie murder, then I certainly would do it. Okay, but there's going to be a long discovery, and you're going to have a long bankroll to be able to talk to different people and try to gain that information. So, you got the average citizen, the reporter, whatever it is that he is, trying to figure out who did this. So think about how long that's going to take.
Right. And like you said, it would make a difference now, even if there was to come out and say, okay, we have evidence that Mac or Perez or Amir was involved. And I spoke to Gene personally. He told me, out of his own mouth that, he's going to, that he had, I'm not going to say he has evidence, but he knows for a fact that LAPD was involved. He told me this, out of his own mouth. And it's funny because even some of those other so-called podcasters, they flip-flop because they believe differently as well. And I noticed, I'm not going to even say no names in that. But like I said, I think we'll never actually know for a fact, ourselves. But like it will make a difference. But I'm all about the truth, and that's why I follow heed to and I'm born in the area. I grew up in it, so definitely a big fan of both Pac and Biggie. So
yeah,
all I want is the truth. What's true to me.
Right. And like I said, whatever out there, and I just I'm not here to push any theory or agenda. I'm just here to listen, mainly just promote channels like Jmix channel. I mean, he's coming out with all kinds of content, which is great for the Tupac community.
Right.
Going back to what you were saying about Eugene Deal, and this has always been a point of contention, and he even came out and said it himself recently. Why would LAPD come to him? Okay, there's two versions of the story. Why would the LAPD come to him and show him a 6-pack with guys that they know are not involved? They don't have, and normally what they do is they have one person that's involved, and to give a description, they bring a 6-pack lineup with somebody who's not even involved, and then if I'm not mistaken, he picked somebody on an accident, maybe somebody that strongly resembled Amir Muhammad, right? Then they come back to him again, and then they have the picture of Amir, and he identifies Amir. So what I'm alluding to is, why not just show him the picture from Jump Street and let him pick the correct person, and instead of trying to kill his credibility, so that when you do show him that second picture, you can say, well, he picked the first picture, but his credibility shot because he picked the wrong guy. Not only that, but you heard him say that the picture was blurred out. Everybody else's picture was fully focused except for that one picture.
That one in particular that was allegedly supposed to be Amir Muhammad. Yeah, so on purpose they wanted to discredit him from the jump because they already knew, that he probably knew, what he was talking about. And you could tell, I'm not trying to, bring up any other, but you could just tell, this is just my take on my opinion. When I listen to, the Bonfers and, the Cadings, he's trying too hard to convince the audience. And he's real, savvy in the wordplay. So I think that's the whole point he wanted Big Gene to debate with him live, so the people who can speak in, and who could cover up the most and they can sound more credible. When Gene speaks, he speaks like from he was there. Like he knows what he's talking about. Like, hey, from a gut place. Like he's telling the truth. So I think that's the difference between people, who rocks the sides with who, or what's true to them, I've never been the bandwagon or just a follower. And like I said, I don't know them guys personally, but, me as a fan, hey, man, I just want the truth. And I like I said, I support your channel big time. Jmix, I like Jmix. I respect them highly. and he's thorough. So I said, I put up there. I said, Jmix, I think he holding back. I think he had some other jewels, and it's funny because he kind of mentioned it. I could tell from the stuff he puts out, he knows a lot more, you know. So, and that's all I want. I just want, just want that closure myself. But it's, it's cool.
Yeah, I think everybody does. Like I said, at this point, I'm not gonna come out and say who is the murderer or anything of that nature because I don't know. I just know that
Right.
whoever it was on both killings, I mean, karma works its way. That's in the universe, so it'll take care of itself. But as far as man,
Right.
just keeping it positive, just keep it moving. As far as everything that's coming out, I mean, we got some good content coming out from Suge. I mean, out of anybody right now that anybody wants to hear, okay, I don't care who in Death Row, he's the guy,
Right. Right.
right? So, I mean,
Hey, that's the main guy. Hey, he did that. Like it gets no bigger than that. It gets no bigger than that. Him and Suge, like it gets no bigger than that. Period. I mean, call it what you want to call it.
name me one person. I mean, if you could, that would supersede the interview with Suge right now from
Nobody,
Death Row.
nobody, no Reggie, no Wack, none of them. Like it doesn't succeed at all. Period, man. Like you got the main guy, you got the head guy that was that dude back in '96, and then before that we knew of, that was rolling. So that's checkmate to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly is. So, I appreciate you calling in, man. I know I catch you on the boards and stuff like that, so I appreciate your support. You want to
Most definitely, most definitely.
shout out where you're calling from? You want to plug anything before we exit this call?
Yeah, I'm down south, man. Down south, most definitely, Georgia. Right,
Georgia.
right below you. You say you in Paris. So you in Paris, right?
I
Yeah, I
mean,
did. I did. No, I was in the army, so I did my basic at Fort Jackson.
okay.
Paris Island. I think it's Marines.
It's a Marine base, yes, sir. I'm a Marines base. I'm a private
Yeah,
contractor, yeah. So I
that's
can't tell
what's
you
up.
exactly what I do, but I'm
Oh,
on.
it's all good. I understand how it goes.
Yeah, nah, I
I
got you.
understand.
So this is just a hobby, man. I mean, I'm trying to get my channel going, So I mean, it is what it is. If it doesn't get monetized soon, actually, I probably will be exiting the whole YouTube scene and then just carrying on with what I do, in my regular
Yeah,
life.
but don't give up yet, man. Just keep it going too. Like I said, I salute, Jay Mix. I understand you see you came up under his wing. So look, you got to branch out. You got to branch out from that.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah. I mean, it's just about really promoting, several channels that are out there, and that's just the way that your channel is able to grow is if you're able to, branch out to different people and just keep it going like that, man.
You
But
think you can get well? You need to get plugged in and get some of them interviews, man, if you can. Understand they make support, but see if you can plug you in with some, some of them people and you know, whatever network you got going on, see if we can get you, you know, somebody on your show, man, and I'm pretty sure that will help big time. This is my take on it.
well, let me share one thing with you, and people will probably agree with me. I had an opportunity handed to me for an interview with the woman that accused Tupac of rape and actually got him locked up, but I turned that interview down just because I didn't
Mm.
think that it was going to be received well by the Tupac community. I got
Right, right.
handed another interview, and I'm not going to mention his name. I'm just going to tell you that he is a rapper from New York, and I'll just leave it at that. And I went ahead and turned that one down
Okay.
too because I didn't think that was going to be well received by this community. Because if you really think about it, this community is really pro West Coast music. So, I didn't think it would be well received. So it's not a matter of who I get to interview or whatever. It's just a matter of
Right. I get what
what it
you're
is
saying.
that I want
Yeah.
to put out there. So that's it, man. I appreciate you calling in. It's good speaking to you. Good hearing your voice as far as you coming through. I appreciate your
Right.
opinions tonight.
Hey, same here, man. Likewise too, man.
All right, so cool, man. Well, I appreciate you calling in, man. You have a blessed night.
All right, you too, bro.
Take
All right.
care. All right, man. We got some callers calling in with some very, very interesting takes on both murders that I can certainly appreciate, man. Very, very much. Jamar, Hatton, Tory, and Ti. Appreciate you calling in. I know you guys. There's a difference in opinion. Some people think that it was Orlando Anderson that did it. That's fine and dandy. I'm not here to tell you, no, he didn't, or yes, he did. I'm just here to listen. I have my own opinions. I don't believe Orlando Anderson did it, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a civil conversation. And that's what this is all about. It's just finding some common ground. And we may not agree with each other, but it's okay to listen. So that's going to be it for tonight. We've already been on the live stream for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I don't think anybody else is going to call in or wants to call in. Um, I know we've been making these these conversations for more than 5 minutes, but it's been pretty interesting to get people's views on what they believe could be true or not true. So, anybody left? Anybody want to call in? If you want to call in, good night, Jamar. Have a good night. Jesse, thank you for calling tonight too. Appreciate it. Everybody, make sure you go to the channel, subscribe. This has been one hell of a stream tonight. I'm gonna fine tune it even more, and we're gonna get like even more sceneries that we talked about. There's a recap tonight for anybody that missed it. Big Cass that came out tonight, and that was pretty much it. Well, I'm sorry, Big Cass. We talked about Phil Carson, his information he's going to be dropping here soon, maybe even dropping a book about the cover up by the LAPD. I know some people can't believe that, but and then just a quick view of the document. Gecko Ammunition. Gecko Ammunition is a brand. Gecko Ammunition. So if everybody had it in Compton, it was a simple Gecko Ammunition. It wasn't an armor piercing bullet. Armor piercing bullets are only issued to police departments only. And I have a conversation with the corporate salesperson that's been with the company for over 5 years and goes back in history and knows and has been there and has sold this ammo. And they stated to me that, matter of factly, it's illegal to buy it. You can't buy it in the state of California. Armor piercing bullets, you can't buy it in the state of California. It's only issued to law enforcement. And they asked me, do you want to buy some? I said, no, I don't. They said, are you a law enforcement? I said, no, I'm not. They said, you can't buy it. So that is that on that topic. So don't be fooled by the whole general umbrella of Gecko Ammunition. It's a type of bullet, it's a brand. But there's another brand that they make, which is the armor piercing bullets. So we're gonna have time for one more call in. Gonna make it 5 minutes. If I don't get a call in the next 30 seconds, we're gonna go offline. But I appreciate everybody being here tonight, listening to the live broadcast. I mean, it was a hell of a live stream. I mean, every time I get Jmix on the radio, we hit the ball out of the park, and certainly appreciate hearing everybody's views tonight on the Tupac Biggie murder. Hopefully someday both of these guys, rappers, get some kind of justice for themselves, for their family. That might be wishful thinking, but it's always possible. Anybody have any questions before we sign off? I don't know if we're going to get another live stream maybe next week with Jmix again. We can go over some questions, some trivial stuff. We'll even have some call-ins. Call in, man. If you want to call in, it's okay. It doesn't matter if you're in agreement with a certain opinion. This is a peaceful chat, man. I'm here to listen objectively. Call RJ for 5 minutes. I don't think RJ would be up at this time of night. It's 12:56 at night. 12:56. 12:56 is what it would be in his time zone. Wait a minute, he's in California. Let's see here. No, I think he'd be like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Well, is RJ on? Is RJ in the chat room? Or is RJ in the chat room tonight? Jesse, is RJ in the chat room? Is Jesse up? I mean, is he up? 7 a.m. in Dublin. Gotta love the UK supporters. They're always coming through all the time. Appreciate them being here. Just finished the night shift. 6:57. 6:57. Are you in the UK too? Lola or Lula? We're gonna give it one more minute, then we're gonna wrap it up, guys. If you have any questions, save them for the next time, for the next live stream we're gonna have with Jesse. I can't even answer half the questions he answers. I mean, he has a wealth of knowledge. Like I said earlier, I didn't even know who Molly was, so I mean that goes to show you how much I really know. But if you can sound out, Jesse, if you're on still, if you can just type in. There was one question I had to ask you, and I was gonna ask you a song that was rare from Tupac that a lot of people have probably not heard, and including myself. Is there something you can type in that we can go search for and listen to? I don't think Kenner would even entertain doing an interview with me. I'm a low level podcaster. Well, it depends on who you talk to. I'm a low level podcaster, so I'm not at that level. And even if I was at that level, he probably wouldn't do it. All right, folks. Well, it looks like everything is tapering off here, and it looks like live stream's going to be ending. But I appreciate everybody who was here tonight. Again, go subscribe to Jesse's channel. Go subscribe to all the channels that were on the ticker. Go support them. It's about supporting your favorite YouTuber, whoever that may be. And as I mentioned to you all, always seek the truth, no matter where it takes you. Have a good night, folks.